I would like to call to order the June 20th, 2023 meeting of the Colerain Township Zoning Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Want to welcome everyone that is in attendance and any that are watching from home, township staff, as well as my fellow commissioners. Just a friendly reminder for all present to silence your devices at this time. Mr. Alley, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bachman?
Here.
Mr. Gary? Mr. Westfall?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Ms. McMullen?
Here.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Gearing is absent, and if Mr. Hauser would like to be seated in his presence.
And just a note that Mr. Hauser is new to the commission, so this is his very first time sitting up here, so thank you
Thank you.
for your service.
So that's what the crowd's for.
Right. And Mr. Alec, just to confirm, we do not have minutes to review this month.
That is confirmed. If I can ask for one small amendment to the agenda. If
Sure.
we could do a real quick oath of office for Mr. Westfall, who was recently appointed as a primary member of the Zoning Commission at the most recent Board of Trustees. I apologize, that was on the electronic agenda, but not on the one I had passed out on this weekend.
Okay. And do you mind if he stays up here for it?
Sure, I think that's
Stand.
Catch every word you say. Please raise your right hand. I, J. Thomas Westfall,
I, J. Thomas Westfall,
solemnly swear
that
that I will uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States,
I will uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
and the laws and resolutions of Colerain Township,
and the laws and resolutions of Colerain Township,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of a primary member of the Zoning Commission
as a primary member on the Zoning Commission
in and for Colerain Township,
in and for Colerain Township,
Hamilton County,
Hamilton County,
State of Ohio,
State of Ohio.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Mr. Westfall, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you want to sign that, I'll go ahead and notarize that. I've got a pen. Is it a blue one? I'm very particular about blue.
Blue, huh?
And then you know the original.
So for those in attendance, just to explain, Mr. Westfall has been an alternate and he's being sworn in as a primary member.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so next we would like to welcome the members of the public here for our public address for the Zoning Commission with any and all items that are not related to the public hearing tonight. This would include any comments for Zips Carwash, Rumpke's Convenience Center, anything else that is on tonight's agenda. Items that are in the public address will be handled during that portion of the agenda. Is there anyone present who would like to address the commission at this time? Okay, seeing none. All right, so tonight we do have a final development plan before us. It is case ZA 2023-01, Zips Carwash. Mr. Alec, does staff have a presentation?
I do. Thank you, Ms. McMullen, for introducing the case. Located pretty much in the heart of the township, in the center there, just off 275 and Colerain Avenue, is Stone Creek Town Center. I'm sure most people here are familiar with that development, but if not, we'll dive into a little bit of that. It's zoned P.D.P, and this portion was rezoned in 2005. The later portion where Best Buy is was 2007. For this particular case, that being the Zips Carwash, the applicant has a preliminary development plan in front of the Zoning Commission in January. That was recommended for approval with conditions by the zoning commission, and it was approved by the Colerain Township Board of Trustees per resolution 35-23 at the March meeting. This is resolution 35-23, and the 4 conditions of approval are included in that and are displayed here a little bit larger on the screen. The first one's sort of a administrative one to the previous resolution that permitted the plan development in the first place. Not sure why that certificate application there changed. I apologize for that. The 11 in there. Anyway, that was just basically stating that with the exception of customer entrances, that the final development plan would adhere to Article 12, but that variances could be applied for that if they didn't really correspond with the development itself. Like, there is no customer entrance on this other than where the vehicles enter. So didn't really match what our zoning resolution had. The other 2 would be the property owner shall be required to comply with the strategies and initiatives listed within the land use element of the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan. And the biggest portion of that was a cross-access easement that came up with the zoning commission, I believe this month last year, regarding some other Stone Creek amendments that we had on there. Oh, pardon me. And then part 4 was a large portion of the discussion was on the trash that's at the current zips on the southern end of Colerain Township. And staff's recommendation was to require acceptable trash receptacles that would have lids on them and contain trash. Pretty common sense thing. So those are the 4 conditions, which brings us to the F.D.P. tonight. The F.D.P. didn't change too much from the P.D.P., and there was some talk between staff and the applicant regarding getting the consistent placement of the dumpster. It'll jump around on the plans, as you may have noticed. But this is the submitted F.D.P. And then if the commission remembers, there was sort of a large discussion regarding the color scheme at the both the informal concept and the the preliminary development plan. This is just an email between the applicant, Rado, and myself. Just knowing there's a few small administrative changes that had to be made on the administration plan, on the final development plan. One of them, for example, was I had initially during the preliminary development plan, I initially had a condition on there to recommend a variance because on their plan it showed an 18-foot length parking space, where zoning resolution requires 19. The applicant had stated in that meeting that it wasn't a big deal. They would just change it to 19. They didn't need a variance for it. But then on the F.D.P. it did not reflect that. So just some minor administrative matters like that, in my opinion, administrative matters like that is what that email reflected. This is going through the F.D.P. again. Staff findings for really the most applicable portions of the zoning resolution are sections 4.5 and 9.3 of the zoning resolution. 4.53, the approval criteria for an F.D.P. So it falls under section 4.53B. Appropriate arrangements made with the applicant have been made to ensure the accomplishment of public improvements and reservation of common open space as indicated on the preliminary development plan and final development plan, if deemed necessary by the Board of Township Trustees during the preliminary development plan approval process. This portion's already taken place and has happened. Portion 2 and 3, same thing, everything. Building location, we've covered all that. Yard requirements, just kind of jump around here just to present them and to show you that they've all been met on here as need be. Each individual phase of the development can exist. This is its own phase and it can exist. Any part of the plan development not used for structures, loading areas or streets shall be landscaped otherwise improved. That's what they're doing, and any portion that they're touching or disturbing, they'll meet that portion. Any exception from the design standards provided in the PD district is warranted. We'll touch on this one a little bit in just a minute here, that the internal streets and thoroughfares proposed are suitable and adequate. They appear to be. They seem to have excellent traffic control there, and that doesn't look to be a problem. That the detailed final development plan is consistent with the intent and purpose of Article 1 of this resolution. It appears to be. And the final development plan has been transmitted to all other agencies. It has done that, and then we've received feedback from those agencies. Most of it was related to sewer easements, which the applicant included with their application. So with a few minor exceptions, those being things such as the parking spaces and like the tree caliber width on the plan, they showed at 2 inches. Our zoning resolution requires 2.5. We've already reached out to them, and they will send an updated F.D.P. to reflect those sort of administrative changes. So those being the minor exceptions. The proposed development plan complies with Resolution 35-23, the Colerain Township comprehensive plan and the Colerain Township zoning resolution. And staff's recommendation is for approval of the final development plan with the following conditions. That the color scheme of the proposed car wash be identical or substantially similar to other Zips car washes within the greater Cincinnati area to better complement the existing development. And to show what that is, there's, in addition to the other Zips located in Colerain Township down south, there's at least 3 others sort of on the northern side of Cincinnati. This is one located out in Montgomery that was built within the last year or two. This one is in Springdale, just just south of Tri-County Mall. And this one is in Fairfield, I believe, pretty close to Jungle Gyms out there. So that's what condition number 1 is addressing, that where it was brought up by the commission, that the color scheme may not be acceptable. If that's the case and the commission still feels that way, then they seem to have a different color scheme that they're able to do in the area. So condition 2, a revised final development plan be required that indicates consistent location of proposed waste receptacles, the dumpsters, and with a detailed sheet of the required trash receptacles at each vacuum stall, and that the revised final development plan shall comply with the Colerain Township zoning resolution. That's all I have on that, Ms.
Thank you. And Mr. Alec, is the applicant present?
I guess so, yep. Oh, I know Mr. McGehee, and then Rado said he would not be here tonight, so I'm not sure who else is with him. But yes, Mr. McGehee is, yes.
Okay.
Good evening, Greg McGehee, UCR Development, 8080 Park Lane, Dallas, Texas. Glad to be back. Hopefully it's the final time. So we are in agreement with staff comments 2 and 3. 1, obviously, I know when we were here a few months ago, we briefly touched on the elevations, but the elevations that we are proposing at this location are the elevations that is the new corporate look for the Zips. We are remodeling, and it takes time to get to all of them, other properties that Zips has either purchased or developed long ago under their, I guess, a different corporate structure at that time. So what we're proposing is what we would like to build, and so with that, happy to answer any questions. I do have the architect, Christine Pafford, here with us tonight as well. But we're in agreement with everything else.
Commissioners?
Just one question, and if the elevations that you have submitted is really what you want to build, could you kind of go through what they are in terms of,
Sure.
is that block, is that, what are we kind of looking at there?
Hi, I'm Christine Pafford with SPT Architecture, 312 South Broadway, Wichita, Kansas. So the elevations here, what we are proposing, like Greg said, is the new Zips prototype design. So we have, there are certain elements that are similar to the existing properties here in the area. Those buildings use red as more of an accent color, and here we're doing it as more of a feature at one end of the building. The other materials, so the wood grain that you see there it's a wood grain plank material, and then we have a combination of painted CMU block and stucco, or excuse me, actually it would be ephes. So what you're seeing here, this is the side that faces the mire, with the tower element facing, let me get my orientation correct here. This is the tunnel exit, so this is facing east. And then if you want to flip to the other rendering. And so this is the side of the building that faces the Stone Creek Parkway. This would all be ephes material, so there's a white and then a dark gray ephes. There's a pay canopy, which is not something that the current Zips have, covered pay canopy attached to the building. That would be a steel structure with a metal, like a plank material. I will just mention that, we did follow the section 1211 of the zoning code with with respect to, materials and colors, there aren't any restrictions for those in the current resolution. And, this is consistent with some other properties in the area in terms of the use of bold colors. There's, reds, greens, yellows, kind of in the vicinity. And so we've really isolated the red to this kind of L-shaped wall feature at the end of the tunnel. The rest of the building is, black, white, and wood grain. So if you have any questions specifically about the design that I can answer, happy to do that.
Has the management of Stone Creek Properties, have they approved the color scheme?
Yes, we have received, Greg, do you want to?
Yeah, we've received approval of the design from the Meyer folks that are owning the property, so yes.
And then I know this is a little backwards, but just for the record, could you state your name and address too, please?
Yes, Christine Pafford with SPT Architecture, 312 South Broadway, Wichita, Kansas.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Okay, at this time, is there anyone that would like to entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ZA 2023-01 with two conditions: that the revised final development plan be required that indicates a consistent location of the proposed waste receptacle dumpster and details the required trash receptacles at each vacuum stall, and that the revised final development plan shall comply with the Colerain Township zoning resolution.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so Mr. Allig, we have a motion and a second for approval of the plan, removing the condition 1 and then just having condition 2 and 3 remaining.
Perfect, thank you.
If we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. So the motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Solzman, before we begin the public hearings, do you want to swear in for both cases tonight together or separately?
Why don't we do it separately, if you
Okay.
don't mind?
All right, so we do have a public hearing tonight for zoning case ZA 2023-08, the Blue Rock Senior Living Center. Mr. Allig, do you have a presentation?
I do. Are we swearing someone in, or did I miss that? No?
You want to do it before
No, I'm
or
sorry.
after your
Yeah,
presentation?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you for introducing the case, Ms. McMullen. As stated, we're looking for or presenting a preliminary development plan tonight for a rezone. The property address is 3636 Semlo. It includes these two parcels listed on the screen. Applicant is Mr. Michael Matson with Matson Design. The property owner is, forgive me if I butcher this name, Mustati Investments LLC. Going to pretty much the southern edge of the township down there, right where it meets Green Township, just north of the border is the site. Just sort of zooming in here to kind of give you an idea of the area surrounding it, fairly heavily wooded. Currently, it is zoned R5, and the use has existed there since about, I believe, the mid to early 70s. And just some more sort of zoomed in picture of the property map there to get some dimensions, and then topography. All those were from Cages, all those images. And then case history, the applicant was before the zoning commission last month for the informal concept review. And then I had the application in to do this, requesting rezone. So applicant is requesting zoning map amendment of the property indicated upon the application from R5 Suburban High Residential District to PDM Mixed-Use Plan Development to allow change in use in the property and to allow for the future use of a portion of the property as medical offices. This is the application and then the checklist that was submitted, as well as the letter of intent. And then here is the site plan for the preliminary development that was proposed. And then going through that, the applicable zoning documents for this particular development, the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan, the housing analysis, page 17, land use analysis, pages 49 and 50, and also the Colerain Township zoning resolution, portions of that. Going through, all this was included in the packet. Just to indicate what the comprehensive plan says should be done either with this type of housing, for this type of housing in this area as well for the land use element of it. And the current zoning resolution, which hasn't yet been updated to reflect the comprehensive plan, the applicable parts of that are 4.3, 4.5, 7.46 institutional housing, and 9.3. I won't go through all this verbatim unless someone wants to. It's all available here and then also online. But the review criteria basically states that any zoning map amendments shall be in accordance with the comprehensive plan, land use plan, and any other policies adopted by the Board of Trustees, and that where more than one zoning district is available to implement the comprehensive plan or land use designation, the applicant must justify the particular zoning being sought and shows the best suit for the specific site based on the policies of the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan. And then this includes also section 4.5, the approval criteria for preliminary development plan for a planned development. Similar to, not too dissimilar from the final development criteria, but here the following criteria shall serve as conditions that should be satisfied before the approval of the preliminary development plan. The PD district and preliminary development plan are consistent with the adopted Colerain Township land use plan and Colerain Township comprehensive plan. The proposed uses will have a beneficial effect on the community. The internal streets and primary and secondary roads that are proposed properly interconnect with the surrounding existing road network. The site will be accessible from public roads that are generally adequate to carry the traffic that will be imposed upon them by the proposed development, and the streets and driveways on the site will be adequate to serve the residents or occupants of the proposed development. The minimum common open space areas have been designated and shall be duly transferred to a legally established homeowners association where applicable, or have been dedicated to and accepted by Colerain Township or another public or quasi-public agency as provided in subsection 9.3.7, common open space. Part number 6, the preliminary development plan is consistent with the intent and purpose of the resolution, and in particular the furtherance of the purpose of the PD district as set forth in section 9.31. The preliminary development plan has been transmitted to all other agencies and departments charged with responsibility for review. And specifically, this site, given that it was a pre-existing non-conforming use, it was developed in the 70s, early to mid-70s, was initially developed owned by the Archbishop of the Catholic Archbishop of Cincinnati, whatever it is. Bad Catholic boy. I'll get punished later, I'm sure. It would typically fall under the section 7.46, with the one exception of D, though, where it states that for mixed development, such as retirement village, with some independent living, shall be built under the multifamily dwelling regulations or as part of a planned development. So it is adhering to that specific regulation. This will come up right here. If you can see on the screen, this is this very last sentence of D there, last portion of that sentence there. And then moving on again, the purpose of a planned district is covered in 9.3.1, and the purpose of that district is to allow for flexibility in the zoning requirements where the result will be a higher quality development, provide for and locate suitable recreational facilities, open space, and other common facilities while preserving the existing landscape to the greatest extent possible, encourage sound planning principles in the arrangement of buildings, the preservation of open space, the utilization of topography, and other site features. Part D, obtain creative and coordinated designs in harmony with surrounding uses, allow procedures supplemental to those applicable in other use districts to establish under which development plans particularly designed to meet the objectives of this section, and allow for creative development that conforms to the goals and objectives set forth in the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan. Excuse me, mouthful. All that is to say, based upon staff's review of the proposed preliminary development plan, staff's opinion that the proposed rezoning of the property to PDM mixed-use plan development could be beneficial to Colerain Township if the appropriate conditions of approval were included to help protect and isolate surrounding properties. Staff recommends approval of the proposed zoning map amendment with the following conditions. The two parcels be combined as soon as practicable or prior to any applicable zoning certificate being issued by the zoning administrator. So prior to them receiving any favorable zoning action following this meeting, with the exception of the final development plan, or before that, ideally, they would just they would consolidate the two parcels into one. And that any necessary amendments to the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan, the Colerain Township Land Use Plan be included with this approval. Per section 4.60, the permitted use of the property be approved as institutional housing, assisted living, and professional business offices for on-site residents. That's condition number 3. Condition number 4, that the existing landscape located within the western and northern portions of the site be included with the required common open space. This is staff's intent to help protect that existing landscape buffer that exists there, that nice mature wooded area, to kind of keep that in there, let it serve as that. And that the Colerain Township Zoning Commission and grant any variances deemed necessary during the review and approval of the final development plan. Well, that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Okay, at this time, we need a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make the motion that we open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Mr. Alec?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall? Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Mr. Salzman?
And if you wish to speak with respect to ZA 2023-08, the Blue Rock Living Senior Living Center, please stand up and raise your right hand. Is there anybody else? Just two? Okay, you swear to tell it, please raise your right hand. You swear to tell it? You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Sure. And please be sure to announce your name and your address when you come up to the podium.
All right, thank you. So on the sign-in sheet, is there a John? Okay. And for the record, please state your name and address.
John Hendry, 3628 Semlo, Cincinnati, Ohio. Have a little bit of background. This place started out as a convent, for the Glen Mary nuns. It was turned over to the Franciscans, and it turned into basically independent living facility, and it was that way for a long time. The concern that I have is that when we're talking about putting medical facilities in, that that's going to increase the traffic on a street that's only about 6 houses long. So it's been a dead-end street essentially for over 50 years. And there's young kids on the street. The traffic, even now, there's cars, I'm going to say, exceeding the speed limit up and down that street. You're coming out of wooded on both sides so that you can't really see people coming up out of there, and which means they can't see young kids or somebody backing out of a driveway. The other concerns that I have is what are the definitions? We're talking about, independent living versus assisted living. I don't understand what what the change is here. All right. I know that in the application they talk about residents, and then they also talk about patients. It used to be a retirement facility, and then what types of medical personnel are going to be on site? Are they going to have practices that are going to drive traffic up, or are they just going to be there as and take care of that? They're the types of residents and patients. They talk about any reason. So before, it was a retirement facility, so that was older people. There were some disabled vets down there. Now it seems to be that they could be any age. We could have young people down there that have some kind of issues. It's close proximity to the school and the ball fields is a concern. What kind of medications are going to be administered in the facility? And, you know, because some people get certain types of medications that if they don't take them or, you know, they don't work right, we have problems there. You know, what type of security is going to be available if they, to address any issues that might come up down there? And then what are the zoning restrictions on transfer? I mean, this specific PDM, that's a gold mine for developers. It opens up a huge list of things that are available for people to put in down there. They could put in multiple offices. You know, there's a long list of things that's in your exhibits. You know, basically anything in B1, B2, B3, or O1 are available, and that's a pretty long list of things that really aren't compatible with a residential area. The number of personnel that are going to be down there, is it going to be 24-hour? What's type of traffic safety and impact has been done? Have they talked about anything about sewage and wastewater? Currently, they have an agreement that they're supposed to be hooking up to Taylor Creek. Eventually, it's not down there. You know, so are they gonna have people down there that have alcohol problems or drug problems? There's a lot of concerns that we have based on this. So those are the questions that I have, and that I think most of my neighbors have. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next up is Randy.
Randy Sexton, 3600 Semlo. And John touched on most of the things. I just wanted to say I moved into that neighborhood 26 years ago because it was a residential area. Kids were safe. It's a blue ribbon school district. It was a dead-end street. There was never issues. It's a different perspective, but 5 years ago, I put 9 video cameras on my house because it's changed so much. I don't want to see it turn into something to where I work really odd hours. I don't want my wife to be home under circumstances that may or may not arrive. So I would just like it to stay the residential, the dead-end street, and that's really all that I got. I just wanted to speak my opinion, and I thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Pete? Pete? No? And I noticed on the other sheet, there's 2 people who live on Semlo. Is there a Rick who wanted to? Okay.
Rick Gosling, 3617 Semlo Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio. I have a couple concerns, and John's addressed a lot of it already, but he mentioned the traffic. The traffic's gotten ridiculous on that street already with, in the last couple of years, just cars coming flying, sometimes 40 miles an hour in a 25 mile per hour zone. And I just feel like it's going to get worse if we change the zoning there. The other thing is there are no sidewalks on the street. So when our kids are out playing, it's on the street. If they're riding bikes or something, these cars are zipping up and down there. I just feel like the zoning itself is gonna change. And as John alluded to, when you change to a mixed-use zoning, there's a whole, I mean, there's a whole list that we have here as far as what it could eventually become, or could potentially become, not eventually, but potentially. And I'm wondering, with that mixed district zoning, what's the process if somebody decides they want to put a doctor's office down there somewhere down the line? Or what's the process if they decide they want to put a restaurant? Because all, in my understanding, and I'm a naive resident that doesn't understand all the laws, but under this list, all of those things are possible. So what needs to be done in order for, if somebody decides to come in and buy that building after we've changed it to mixed use, what needs to be done for them to decide that they're going to put a restaurant or a pub down there? What's the process look like? Also, there's a couple on the original plan here that I've got. They said in the future, existing offices on the first floor will be available on a rental or lease agreement basis to providers of personal services and/or as medical offices required for the patients of the Blue Rock Senior Living Center. So it sounds to me like it's open to the public and to the residents, unless I'm not understanding that wording. Now, I know on the plan that was proposed tonight, I think under section, I'm sorry, I'm trying to, they did mention that it's for resident use only, but there seems to be a conflict as far as under staff recommendation in number 3, the permitted use of the property be approved as institutional housing and professional business offices for on-site residents. So there seems to be some confusion there as far as what those offices are going to be used for also. And then as John alluded to also, my understanding is right now they have to pump the sewage up out of that place up into the sewer on Semlo. If you increase the number of people that are down there, how is that going to impact the sewage on Semlo Avenue also? So those are my concern. And just safety of the residents. Again, it's a quiet residential street, or it has been since we moved there, but it seems to be the flow of traffic has increased in the last couple of years since that place has changed ownership more than once, I know. So thank you.
Thank you.
sir.
And then just to double check, there's also a Mike who lives on Semlo. Did you wish to speak to?
Everybody has touched on John, Randy has touched on everything that I want to say. Schedule 3 is really.
If you're gonna speak, you do need to come up.
Rick has done it.
Yeah. Just come on up. You came, you might as well speak.
My biggest problem is with Schedule 3, land use. That opens the door for anything. Correct me if I'm wrong. That opens the door for anything in our neighborhood. As you read down Section 3, why do we need a helipad? Think about this. I mean, parking garage on Semlo?
What are you referring to, sir? There's no indication on this plan that there be a helipad or.
Where's it at? I will show this to you.
Real quick, let me real fast. Hold on, real fast, because it's come up multiple times, should be addressed right now. For PD, the specific uses are approved in this process right here. So it's while any use in our business or residential use table, in this case for PDM, could be approved, the zoning commission, the board of trustees, they approve specific uses. So what we're doing with our plan, and it's come up before the board, before the commission many times, where someone was once approved, in instance of a recent case, to the South Kroger at 6401, they were approved for retail sales. A warehouse wanted to go in there, they could not just go in there by right, so we said it's like a gold mine for developer. It may actually be the opposite, and that's the purpose of a planned district, is to put
How about the country
constraints
club?
any of those could be applied,
I
they're
know
not
it's
applying
only
for
7.5
it.
acres.
It
I
could
know
be.
this property is only 7.5 acres, but there's a 55-acre farm behind it. Country club? This is some stuff you want approved.
That's not true at all, but we appreciate your feedback, sir.
Country club right there. You see it? Country club.
I-
That's from this here, Maxon Design, letter of intent.
You need to stand the mic so we can.
Country club.
Thank you, sir.
Country club. Do we need a country club?
And
Do
then,
we need a helipad?
so just for the record, you do have to also state your name and address.
Mike
please.
Phillips, 3603 Semlo.
Thank you.
We don't need this.
Okay, so I do believe that that is everyone that signed in. However, I just wanted, did you want to come back up? Yes.
Please.
My question to you then is, what is the process like? Do you go through this process every time if somebody decides they want to put a restaurant or a bar? And once it's been approved for mixed use, does that make it then easier to go through, if they just want to switch what they're using it for? that's my concern. Once it's been approved mixed use, what's the process then to switch it to, say, from assisted living to whatever other mixed use, whatever other type of facility falls under that mixed use? Does that?
That's perfect. So, yes, sir. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to clarify. So the two uses that are being proposed tonight that we received in our letter of intent were for institutional housing / the assisted living, so which is currently happening there, and then for doctor's offices only for the people, for any of the residents or patients on site there. So those are the only two uses that that I ever saw in our letter, the applicant's letter of intent, and that was brought up and is being recommended to be discussed tonight. Now, if something is rezoned to PDM and want to go to use that's outside of any of those uses, it would go through almost the exact same process. It's just called a major modification. But same thing, we have to do our legal notices in the Cincinnati Enquirer, in this case, Cincinnati Enquirer, and then also all the residents within 200 feet would be notified as well through the mail notice that you should have all received for this hearing tonight. So it's the exact same process, same hearing. If let's say if someone bought the property and they tried to, pull the sheets overhead or something like that, they'd be going through the same process. If they did want to put in a restaurant or a bar or business or something like that, that was not within the two specific uses we're talking about tonight, then yes, they'd have to go through this exact same process. It'd be two public hearings, one with the zoning commission, follow on with the board of trustees next month, or the following month, whatever the application went through. Pardon me. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Alec, is the applicant present tonight?
Mr. Massey?
Can I speak real quick? I wasn't on the list, but I'm a resident.
Did you get sworn in previously?
I did not.
Okay, Mr. Stolzman?
Please stand up, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth?
Yes.
Sure. Please raise your right hands. You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Okay. And for the record, please state your name and address, please.
My name is Adam Higgins, 3631 Semlo Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio. My first question to you, or to what you were stating there, is who regulates all of those? So if they were to come in and say they wanted to change it to a pub, who comes in and regulates to say this is a pub and this is functioning as an operating pub here on out? And then who continues to then regulate it from there?
That'd be myself as a zoning administrator or who's ever in the zoning department. So if
How-
an applicant came in with a change of use, is that what you're asking for?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yep. So
Okay.
same thing, they put an application in for a change of use and review it. In this case, it'd be very fresh. We don't have to review much, but say, no, it's not the use that was approved there.
Sure.
So you'd have to, if they wanted to continue, they have to apply for what's called a major modification.
Okay.
Which was almost the exact same process as what we're doing tonight.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And just to clarify, that would come through this commission, and it would get a public hearing where the residents would be notified, as well as the public, or through the Enquirer.
Yes, sir. It's the exact same
So,
process.
so that the concern of a pub or a country club would come back through this board, through this body, through this same process, and we would hear the pros and the cons of that and make a decision.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Who also regulates that I believe the doctor's offices were for residents only? Who regulates that only residents are being seen there versus just the public?
It would be our office as well, and most of that would be triggered through like some type of complaint.
So we as residents would have to complain or something along those lines for you to come in to say, we need to check to see who is being seen here? Is that what you're saying?
It would be for the most part, if this were approved.
Sure.
And it was for residents only, I'm just trying to envision, Scott, maybe you can help me, how we would ever see records of that. Medical records get pretty tricky pretty quick.
I'm sure.
So I'm not sure how we would exactly follow that.
Sure.
If that makes sense, but then.
I'm with you.
Okay.
So what you're saying is you can't really, there's no way to regulate who's being seen and who's not being seen.
No, we could through the violation process, but we would have to have a violation turned in though. Alleged violation would have to be turned in our offices to some point.
So that would have to come from the outside, like a resident like myself, but I would have no way of knowing.
There would be a complaint if there's high level traffic. We could go ahead and figure out who's in and out. Obviously, if they pull up, they go in and see a doctor, and they come back out,
quick.
they're not living there, right? So that would be a pretty easy way to just. If it changed to a use that wasn't approved, it's pretty. Residents complain pretty quickly.
Right. Understood. Well, that brings me to my next point. As a resident, I can tell you, I live the closest to that, the driveway of that facility now, and being the youngest person in this room, I believe, I'm pretty new to this whole process, but living that close to that facility, I have a 3-year-old son. I can tell you, just today with the way that is set up, I'm definitely afraid of him to play in our front yard because of the traffic that comes up and down that street for that facility specifically. And like John touched on, it is wooded on both sides, so that traffic would never see my son in the front yard until they were on top of him, essentially. So I can tell you, just like everybody else said, I think traffic would be a big concern. And I think one of the points pointed out that you would need adequate in and out traffic, and I don't know if a one-way street with no sidewalks would be sufficient, or if there's other ways to look at expanding traffic or what have you, but I would say that's my concern also, and I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, my name is Kathy Hendry, and I also live at 3628 Semlo. When I spoke to the zoning earlier this week, I found out that this is institutional assisted living, the 7.4.6, includes disability, handicap, and the elderly. And under either the disability or the handicap, you also have drugs, alcohol, and mental illness. You could set it up as a drug rehab center, alcohol rehab center. All of these are what you are passing with that institutionalized assisted living. That is not something we need that close to our schools or our children. And to me, that hasn't been addressed. What type of assisted living are we talking about? Are we talking about that we have to have guards down there because they are on drugs, they are not mentally stable? What assurances are you giving for our families? I don't understand how this was even brought up, and only letters went out to the people whose property adjoins it. Most of these members on our street were not even aware this meeting was happening tonight. That is not fair. They are only here because we spread the word. We are right next to their property. And we have young children in the yard all the time. And if this was your neighborhood, you would not want it to be opened up like that. There are 6 houses on my side of the street. Not a very long street. So that's one of my concerns. And if you're gonna run an assisted living, you also need a larger group of personnel to run the facility. How many people are we talking about employee-wise that we don't have parking and everything else for? There is half a parking space allotted for each residential bed. That's not going to allow all these people to be down there and coming and going all day long. I don't think any of these things have been taken into consideration before it was approved. And I think it should have gone out to more members of our community than just the 5 or 6 of us that our property is right up against theirs. That's not fair.
And just to clarify real quick, it has not been approved. That's what tonight is for.
I mean, when I read the paperwork that came through, it kind of said, we're looking at it and we're okay with this. And I'm like, how can you be okay with this? When I said there's not conditions for the wastewater runoff and that, you know, they are not hooked up to the sewage facility they really need to be hooked up to. It was a temporary thing when it was put in. It's pumped up through our property to a sewage retention center. And I was told they didn't even realize that. How is a zoning, you're not aware of that? But I was like, what kind of investigation did we put forth? What kind of effort was there? I don't see it. So those are my greatest concerns, that nobody has looked at this as a safety feature. And Are we going to have drugs? Are we going to have alcohol? Are we going to have mentally disabled people? That all fits under that disabled, institutionalized assisted. And we're awful close to everybody's homes and their kids. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss.
Okay, we do need a motion to close the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
And Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Allen, just to clarify again, that the applicant is not present, correct?
They are.
Oh, okay, thank you. So, question. It would be great if the applicant could answer some of the questions that were brought up tonight. So to do that, we should probably swear him back in. Do we need to open the public portion of it again?
I don't think we need to go ahead.
And the public has had their chance to go ahead and voice their concerns. I think
Okay.
it's now proper if you
Thank
swear
you.
to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay. And then I think we're good from here.
Hi, I'm Michael Madsen. I prepared the application, the plans, and I represent the owner. Raised a lot of good questions, and right now this is a facility for independent living. 21 beds, 21 bedrooms. Independent living, people that are able to move on and off the site without help and do not need medical or physical assistance to get through their day. What we're proposing is an assisted living facility. And I understand the concerns about drug and alcohol rehabilitation. That's not the intent of the owner, and I don't know how to legally limit that or prohibit that use from this facility, but that's not the intent. These people do need help to get through their day. They, as a rule, don't have their own vehicles. And as far as the auxiliary uses of the facility, our intent is just to use, there are, I believe, 4 or 5 offices on the lower level in the north wing that are used presently for clerical and administrative offices. Perhaps if somebody, a physician or somebody who provides physical therapy wanted to rent out some of those offices to provide services just for the patients slash residents that use that facility. We included that in the scope of work under this application so that we could do that in the future. If we were to do that, as I understand the process, we would have to apply for that as a minor change to our final development plan to make sure that we have enough parking per the ordinance. It's certainly not the intent of the owner, and we would have to come through the board again to put in a restaurant or a bar. That's not the intent of the owner whatsoever. And we'd have to come through you folks, and we'd have to notify all the residents. And I understand their concerns. I am not familiar with, the increase in traffic in the last couple of years. But the services that we propose to provide are very important. And I know change is not easy to accept, but people need these services, and perhaps not you, and perhaps not your family, but these folks need some place to live and to get help, and my client wants to provide that help, and we would like the opportunity to do so. It's a beautiful, quiet facility, and I don't foresee an increase in traffic above what has been happening on Semlo in the past couple of years. And I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your help, Jude.
Thank you, Mr. Masson.
So you stated 21 rooms, so a maximum of 21 patients.
We're not increasing the number of rooms.
And do you have an idea the number of caregivers? That's one of the questions.
Excuse me?
Do you have an idea the number of caregivers that are on site?
There would be no more than 5 or 6 employees.
Total or in a 24-hour period?
Yes.
Okay. So you clarified that the medical office would be for resident only.
Yes, and like I say, I don't know how to legally establish that or prohibit outside patients driving down Semlo to get medical services. That's not the intent. These would, just be for patients upstairs to use the elevator, come downstairs, see a doctor, go back upstairs.
I'm sure that could be addressed in the leases they would sign.
What was that? That issue could be addressed in the leases that they would sign.
And Mr. Alec, clarification for you, the number of parking spots we talked about at the last meeting was currently compliant, but it was right on the border of if they would need to increase a few spots or not.
That's correct.
So that still stands today, correct?
It does, and then also to clarify on that, the business aspect, so PDM being this part residential, which is already there, that is already there, and then the one we're proposing really to modify would be the P.D.P aspect, would be for the doctor's offices. Really on this plan, that there aren't any actual doctor's office going, correct me if I'm wrong, it's simply just getting that use to be there in the future, to come back to be able to do that in a specific portion of the building, which should be addressed at the final development plan, should this make it to that point. But just to make that clear, like, there's no increase in parking because this is the proposed future use of the building. This is not even being approved at this moment. There's no application for the business portion of this to be going, if that makes sense.
It does, but in theory, there should never be a parking need. If there should never be a parking need for the future offices. If the offices are for the residents themselves and the residents are taking the elevator down, I don't see a need for additional parking except for maybe that professional who's providing the service.
Exactly. Yep, 1 or 2 for the doctors or nurses, whoever would be there. Yes, sir, that's correct.
And what is the number of parking spaces there now?
I believe that we have 14 spots, and we're required 1 spot for every 2 beds. So we're required to have 11 spots. We've got a few extra, 3 extra. But of course, that would be addressed and substantiated once we got to that point of moving those sort of facilities and operations into our facility.
Mr. Mattson, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So right now you have 21 units that are occupied.
Not this time, but
Okay.
we hope to.
And it's made at
Yes.
at 100% occupancy, that's the potential. Do you know in the past, the type of residents that you had? Were they all elderly, or did you have alcohol and
No,
and-
they were,
and drug?
there was basically a retirement community
Okay.
facility.
And you mentioned the intent was not, what the intent was not by your client, which was not alcohol or drugs. Could you put on record what the intent is?
Just for people who physically, not psychologically or due to any substance abuse or alcohol abuse condition, need assistance to get through their day. Just physical conditions, not mental or addictive
Dependent.
condition.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let me ask the question of the House Attorney here. Is it acceptable to put something like that in a motion to not allow the alcohol and drug dependency?
I would only address what they're requesting. They're not requesting that. I would not do that.
Okay.
I don't know if that is legal.
Okay. That's why I ask it. Okay. And I guess the question, you have no knowledge of why the parking or the traffic may be increased. If you have 21 units that are independent.
I didn't even know this facility existed down Semelo until I was hired, and I drove down Semelo, and all of a sudden this. So I don't know why in the past couple of years traffic would have the traffic volume would have increased. I know that somebody said the property has changed hands a couple times. Well, that's involved people coming on the site and, checking out the facility. And one of the things that is going to have to be done is that some work is going to have to be done as far as fire safety to this building. So there's probably been some people, independent contractors coming down to see what it's going to take to put in a sprinkler system and so forth. Those kind of issues may have increased traffic. I can't.
That's fine. I understand you can only answer what you know. So my next question is, it's 21 units existing, and that's what your proposal is. There's no more than the 21. So there's no increase in density. Okay. Can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned that the fire suppression needs to be updated, probably because of independent living to dependent living.
Yes, sir.
Can you talk about the sanitary sewer? That's a new element that we've not heard of. The sanitary sewer. Can you speak to that issue?
I really can't. I know that you do have an ejector pit to get the sewage, up to the public sewer level, but I didn't know that there was an issue, quite frankly.
Okay.
The owner is here. Perhaps he has could answer that question. It's just.
Yeah, the points come up about the sanitary sewer. Obviously, it's an impact on the environment. Just wondering, did you know about it, and is that an issue with the revised plan of, additional capacity potentially in the building?
You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name and address.
I live at 7322 Arch Meadow Court, Westchester, Ohio. I'm the owner of 3636 Semlo Avenue property that we are planning to change from current independent living to assisted living. The issue you were talking about, the sewage, we didn't know. That's new to us. We have nobody ever told us when we were buying the property or any issue. But if there is a major issue, we can always work to address it and fix it.
Okay.
And also, if I can add on other concerns that people had about increased traffic. I just bought. I mean, I think most. If you live on the street, I drive a truck. I always come there down. I go to the property every day, and I always mindful for kids. I drive slowly every time, and I wave to other people. And as an owner, I totally understand what your concerns are, and I always tell my people that we don't need any unnecessary traffic or any speeding, and I always tell people, and even right now it's kind of family run, so my daughter, my wife, everybody just come there every day, and everybody is respectful and drive safely. So if this increased traffic has been there in 4 months, I'm not sure. But before that, there could be some people, I heard there was some history on it. But since we owned it from, I think, October, we are trying. I mean, I really understand the concerns, and concern the people. I don't drink, I don't do anything. And I really try to make sure that I really provide service to people, not really coming to cause any trouble to the neighborhood. And I saw the people are very respectful in the neighborhood, and I want to maintain like that. The issue that was raised about alcohol and all that stuff, like I said, I don't drink myself, I don't have patience for drinking or anything. So what I do, I'll make sure that the reflection is for safety for the residents and also for neighbors. Just to make sure that, and also we're changing from independent living. Somebody mentioned about like, are you going to allow kids or something? It's still going to remain a senior living, like 55 and up. So the people who are going to get, my intention and the intention of the other team is to make sure that like people who are, like who may have issues, like even remembering their medications. Because we don't want to take even the high stuff, specialized stuff, because we're not even allowed by the licensing. Because nursing home needs skilled level, we are not even allowed for that. It's just assistant people, maybe just minor assistance, people getting older, so they need assistance in their daily needs. And that's what we intend. We don't intend, I mean, all the concerns that people raised, I totally understand, and I personally, I don't even intend to do that. I intend to really leave that area as is, very good and safe to everybody. I can give everybody my phone number or something. If you see, hear anything, you can call me. And also number of, we are planning like to start with 5 employees, but also once we turn to assisted living, it's going to be determined by census, how many people we have. So I think it's maybe 1 to 8 residents. And also we're not going to make sure it's safe. And also, I mean, you have my direct number. Any of your members can have my number. You call me directly if there is any concern. And I make sure I'll be there. I'm there every day.
Thank you.
Anyway, sorry.
So you were speaking to the folks, which is great. We're glad that you were, but just so that the microphone's very clear and that the record's very clear, let me ask this question. Your intent then for this facility, there's 21 units, is for what? Explain that to the commission, please.
Or it's assisted living. So assisted living is just helping people, like some people may have like, they want to assisted with their medication. They may forget to take their medication. Some of them may be assisted, maybe like just to remind it to bath. Some people may be assisted just to eat. Some people may forget to eat. So that's what we are planning to do. If we go beyond that, we don't intend to go beyond any other. Like if it is mental health and all that stuff, we may need even more license from the state. And we're not applying for that. We're just applying basic assisted living.
And that's for 55 and older, is that correct?
55 and older, yeah.
Okay.
No drug treatment, no alcohol treatment?
No. Even no mental health, anything, because we won't be licensed for that. We are not even applying for that with the state. State won't even allow us. If they find, they do random inspections. If they come there and find us to do anything, we're in trouble. We lose license, fined by the state when they do their audits frequently.
Okay.
And then, just to make sure we clarify for the record as well, the medical offices, residents only.
Yeah.
No
So-
additional traffic, no one outside of,
No, that's not even my intention. We don't have, need anybody to come to get treatment at our place. That's just residents who are there. Instead of going to the doctor can just come and see them there. That's it. We don't even intend to, I mean, I know people have concerns, but that's never my intention at all.
thank you. Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No, I'm sorry. The public hearing's already closed. Commissioners, any last questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, at this time, is there anyone that would like to entertain a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion just to get it on the table. I make a motion for approval of the zoning, the proposed zoning map amendment with the following conditions. 1, parcels 510-0080-0330-00 and 510-0080-0348-00 shall be combined as soon as practical or prior to any applicable zoning certificate being issued by the zoning administrator. Any necessary amendments to the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan and the Colerain Township Land Use Plan be included within this approval. Item number 3, per 7.46D, the permitted use of the property be approved as institutional housing, assisted living, and professional business offices for on-site residents only. 4, that the existing landscape located within the western and northern portions of the site be included within the required common open space. 5, that the Colerain Township Zoning Commission may grant any variance or variances deemed necessary during the review and approval of the final development plan. I'm going to add number 6, and number 6 is that the use for the proposed residences for a 55 and older community, in other words, assisted living for the elderly, not for alcohol, not for drug dependency programs or mental health, as the applicant has mentioned on the record. That's it.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I do want to clarify with Mr. Solzman, with it being mentioned on record for 55 years and older and the type of treatment.
I think that was, given that it was stated by the applicant, I think that is acceptable.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. So for the motion and a second, is there particular wording that we should do for this new condition? So the use for proposed residents be 55 years of age and older, and
As stated by the applicant, that we can probably, I think it was fine the way it was stated. We can probably go through that for the resolution to the trustees. That works for me. Yeah.
Staff did some research to find out exactly what, and give the applicant, property owner, what's very specific state license that describes the property as assisted living, and have that be an additional stipulation with the condition before the board of trustees next month. So, so to go with number 6, if you wouldn't mind, maybe a minute, say.
The appropriate state licensing requirements for 55 and older only.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you.
so do the commissioners understand the motion before us,
So,
the additional condition?
So do we need to table this motion until next month, or do we need to vote on it tonight?
We will vote on it tonight if everyone understands the motion before us. Mr. Westfall, you're good?
Good.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second, and we all understand what is before us. Mr. Alec?
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Buckman?
Yes.
Mrs. Mullins?
Yes. So the motion carries.
You have the one for that? Also, Ms. Mullins, can I pick up real quick?
Yes.
Now, why I wasn't here is, for this case specifically, this case will be in front of the Board of Trustees next month. So the first hearing, next month, which will be the second Tuesday, the same case will be before the Board of Trustees. Just to let you know, make sure everyone's aware of those funds. You'll also receive, we'll do our public notification and mail notification to all property owners as well as put, buffer on the property change. Mr. Allen, see you.
Okay, oh, I hate talking. Just so everyone knows, pardon me for that, this case will be in front of the Board of Trustees at their first hearing next month. That's the second Tuesday in July, I believe the 11th. Can you check that for me? Just perfect. And then, so just to give you notice of that right now, and then they'll vote, that vote will actually be to change the zoning map or not. And then also we'll do our public notice through the Cincinnati Enquirer, and also a mailed notice to all property owners within 200 feet of this property, as we're required to do by state law. So just want to let everyone know, it'll be back before the Board of Trustees next month.
And Mr. Allen, could you mention what kind of our role is to the trustees? In other words, we're a recommending body and kind of what happens
Yep.
there.
So the purpose of the case tonight is to kind of work through the details that we did and kind of hopefully propose better conditions of approval or denial to the Board of Trustees. So the zoning commission, they make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. So in some cases, they can recommend to approve. They can recommend to approve with conditions, which is what was done tonight, these being the 6 conditions. Or they could make a recommendation to deny. Then the Board of Trustees, when they review this matter at a public hearing next month, they can either uphold those conditions or deny it flat out or approve it without the conditions. Is that clarified? So this is where we kind of hash out a lot of the details, hopefully, address some of the issues, but I think we've done hopefully a very good job of, and add some conditions or in some cases, remove conditions for the case to go forward. But just, it'll be before the Board of Trustees next month. Is that, did you confirm the 11th? Tuesday, July 11th. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so next up, we have a public hearing for zoning case ZA 2023-09. Mr. Alec.
Thank you so much, Mr. McMullen. So this is a preliminary development plan
Would-
for,
I'm sorry, would you mind holding while?
absolutely.
I just know the door is going to slam on us.
Thank you. So case ZA 2023-09, preliminary development plan for 10345 and 10329 Colerain Avenue, parcels 510, 182, 6, and 510, 182, 8. The applicant is Jay Adams with Unicorp National Developments, and the property owners, I believe it's Clow 2 Management LLC and Clow Family Properties LLC. Located a little bit north of our first case tonight for the F.D.P. Again, pretty well-known and popular and busy intersection, right at Colerain and Struble. Zoom in here. Just kind of zoom in a little bit closer in the vicinity. And then directly across from Rumpke's headquarters and also their disposal site. Here's the current zoning of the two properties. One is P.D.P. and the other is R3. This is just a property map, again, off from Cage's topo map. Just to give it a little bit of history, as far as our records have, case ZA 2005-006 was for a Mowers, and it was approved under the previous version of the Colerain Township zoning resolution, and that was approved by resolution 35-05. There were 16 conditions of approval. And then 2007, a minor amendment to allow for the addition of outdoor mulch storage and concrete bins was requested and approved for. That was strictly through the zoning commission. And in this case tonight, the applicants requested major modification, P.D.P/F.D.P, and a zoning map amendment to the property indicated upon the application. And it's technically, it's a whole complete rezoning, given how extensive the changes from the, this is a great time, I guess, to highlight the specific use of the existing PD was for the mower sales and rental, sales and service only. So in this case, where it was zone PDB, you can't just come in there and do whatever you want. Sort of a good thing in this case. And then also a zoning map amendment from single letter R3 to PDB to allow for the permitted use of the property, of both properties, to construct a new gas station, or in our case, per zoning resolutions, automotive fuel services. Here's a application checklist, the applicant's letter of intent, and then the submitted preliminary development plan and some architectural renderings. And then staff's interpretation, the applicable zoning documents are the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan, the economic development analysis found on page 17, mobility analysis found on page 49, land use analysis on page 50, and then same zoning resolution aspects as before, with the exception of section 8.42. I will cruise to that one, and that's just dealing with the automotive fuel services, where same thing, that both plans have to comply with the comprehensive plan, the zoning resolution, and any other policies or resolutions set forth by the Board of Trustees. And then in a single letter zoning district, automotive fuel services could be permitted. They do have a few special exceptions. All fuel pumps and service islands shall meet the site development standards of the applicable zoning district. In this case, being a proposed PDB, that could be whatever the zoning commission and Board of Trustees would approve. Where a proposed fuel pump or service island abuts residential use, the minimum setback shall be 50 feet from the lot line adjacent to the residential district. The outermost edges of all protective canopies shall comply with all yard requirements of the applicable zoning district. Basically, the canopy that the fuel pumps are under has to meet all the setbacks that exist there. This one we'll cover a little bit more in depth on this one. The purpose of a plan district is to allow for flexibility in the zoning requirements, where the result will be a higher quality development, provide for and locate suitable recreational facilities, open space, and other common facilities, while preserving the existing landscape to the greatest extent possible, encourage sound planning principles in the arrangement of buildings, the preservation of open space, the utilization of topography and other site features, being creative and coordinated designs in harmony with the surrounding uses, and allow procedures supplemental to those applicable in other use districts to establish under which development plans particularly designed to meet the objectives of this section, and allow for creative development that conforms to the goals and objectives set forth in the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan. Furthermore, in this one, compliance with those plans. So all plan developments approved after the effective date of this resolution shall comply with the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan, the Colerain Township Land Use Plan, and including compliance with permitted uses, densities, intensities, and other recommendations of the plans. Any variations from the comprehensive plan and land use plans shall require an amendment to the applicable plans through review and approval by the zoning commission and trustees. And sort of the bigger portions of this was section 9.3.6 design standards. Design standards for area, lot coverage, density, yard requirements, parking, landscaping, screening for proposed PD district shall be established in the PD preliminary development plan by zoning commission and Board of Township trustees. Exceptions and variations from the design standards provided by the base zoning districts of this resolution, R1, 2, B1 examples, may and should be granted by the zoning commission and Board of Township trustees when it is determined that due to certain design elements, natural features, and public amenities, the exceptions are warranted. Standards for public infrastructure improvements shall be governed by the applicable regulations of the agency with jurisdiction that is charged with the responsibility for review and approval. And based on all of that, staff findings. The submitted preliminary development plan does not meet the purpose of the plan development district as stated within section 9.31 A, C, D, or E. As proposed, the preliminary development plan will require numerous variances from the Colerain Township zoning resolution. Specifically, but not limited to, a variance of 20 feet would be required to section 14.5.2, which is, that's our setback buffer yards for uses going near other districts. So table 14.2, required buffer yard. To approve, the applicants propose a 10-foot buffer adjoining an R3 district where in table 14.2, a 30-foot buffer yard is required. Staff finds the proposed and preliminary development plan that does not meet the minimum requirements for a buffer yard adjoining an existing residential district is in direct conflict with sections 9.31 A, C, D, and E. The proposed preliminary development plan does not comply with sections 9.3.4 compliance with plans, that being the comprehensive plan. A staff's recommendation that the location of the underground fuel storage tanks be required to be relocated to a location as far as practicable from any existing residence. Staff's opinion that the eastern point of ingress and egress should be right in and right out only. There's currently a median there on US 27, and ODOT would, I'm guessing, require that regardless, but just in case they were not to, we want to capture that here. Staff's opinion that the proposed major modification or rezoning of the property to P.D.P for the proposed use should be considered with great caution. The proposed site has a very heavy traffic count. A fuel station and convenience store probably would be beneficial to Colerain Township near this specific intersection. However, it must be noted that within the immediate vicinity of the proposed development are 2 vacant brownfield sites, one of them being an adjacent property to one of these parcels. It is a vacant site that it used to be a fuel station back in the day, and has sat there unused and unredeveloped for any purpose for quite some time. And also approximately 1,800 feet south of that, on the other side of US 27, just in front of Stalem Meats, is an old BP. It's now, I believe, Car Connection, same thing. It faces a lot of challenges with redevelopment due to the cost of remediation for environmental standards. So again, staff's opinion that great caution must be employed in the consideration of rezoning the proposed site to permit the use of the property as automotive fuel services when 2 vacant parcels within such close proximity to the proposed site of this case have had redevelopment efforts stifled due to the expenses associated with remediation of contaminated brownfield sites. And staff's initial recommendations to table continue the request before us tonight. This recommendation is made because we have not had any contact with the applicant or any time to have like a pre-application meeting, or I'm sorry, not any time. One was not requested. A pre-application meeting was not requested, where if it were, we probably would have had a lot of recommendations on the proposed plan. But that's staff's initial recommendations to table it, to continue it to next month so that the applicant, property owner, can work with staff to hopefully propose a better plan. However, if not, then staff's recommendation would be approval with conditions of a proposed major modification zoning map amendment, and just some initial recommended conditions to try and help protect the area would be both parcels shall be combined prior to any final development plan being submitted, that the Colerain Township Zoning Commission may grant any variances to the Colerain Township zoning resolution that the commission deems are warranted during the public meeting to be held upon submission of the final development plan, and that no variance is hereby granted to the requirements listed within section 9.3, the entire section, plan development district of the Colerain Township zoning resolution. The only aspect of the submitted preliminary development plan being approved is allowing for the specific use of the property to be permitted as automotive fuel services. So whereas it was permitted for retail sales for the mower sales and service, in this case, being recommended, again, with great caution, with conditions, would be to change the specific use of these parcels to automotive fuel service only, in accordance with section 9.35A. And that concludes my staff report on that.
Thank you. All right. So at this time, we have a lot of individuals that are signed in to speak, so we do need to make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Second that.
Pardon me? So now for a second, I was Mr. Buckman.
Yes.
Mr. Hauser.
Yes.
Mr. Westfall.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Ms. McMullen.
Yes. All right, Mr. Sullivan.
If you wish to provide testimony, please stand up and raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Right. Please be sure to state your name and address before you talk. Thank you.
Okay, so we do have quite a list before us tonight. So starting at the top of the list, Dennis? And if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Dennis Klei,
10345 Colerain.
Thank you.
I know a little bit about what they're doing. I'm not representing the developer. I own one of the parcels in question. One of the values of this is there's no gas station from Ross to Round Top on that side of the road, which is an issue where people are trying to make left turns across Colerain Avenue. It's already congested and heavy traffic. I don't know that the gas station would bring more traffic because the traffic's already there. I think if it was something that was a mall or a retail outlet, kind of like what I'm already there for, people drive from a long distance to come to that location, where a gas station is more of a service. When you're driving by, you need gas, you fill up, go in, get a drink, whatever it is. The other thing is they're willing to bring sewer up, which with the way the Hamilton County is with the septic systems and sewers, you know, the cost to replace the septic system is becoming unavailable sometimes, and you have to take other means to get that. And if they're bringing sewer up, that would allow the neighbors to have access to that. You know, it's going to operate business hours, and they're going to be quieter than what we are. We run power equipment, lawnmowers, chainsaws, so that might be a plus for some of the concerns. And like I say, to have a company like that come in, I think it would add more revenue for the township, you know, more payroll, more things of that nature. So I just think it would be a positive. But I appreciate your time. Thank you all very much.
Yes, sir.
Next on the list is Jill.
My name is Jill Kiger, and I live at 4330 Ray Ann Drive. Earlier today, I went to the zoning office to take a look at the map. And, you know, whereas on the one hand, I'm relieved that there's planning a retention pond, you know, behind my house, you know. I still have concerns, however, about a 24-hour business, because right now, we are adjacent to a business that's not 24 hours. And I'm concerned about a 24-hour business adjacent to, you know, residential, adjacent to our homes. My question is it going to bring in crime? Are we going to have litter blowing into our properties? Are we going to have some noise pollution? I mean, I can appreciate what Dennis Klei says now, but he has to understand that our only noise pollution is just, you know, from my perspective, we just hear lawnmowers, you know, because he's fixed his lawnmowers. That's not really noise pollution, it's just normal summer noise. I'm just wondering about, you know, the motorcycles coming in and revving up and pulling out, you know, because even though I sit further down on Ray Ann Drive than some of my other neighbors, I can still hear noise, you know, from Colerain Avenue. And so I'm just concerned about noise pollution, and a 24-hour business, you know, is it going to bring in crime? And again, the litter. And another thing that I was surprised that this gas station is being planned, because it's going to be in direct competition with a well-established popular franchise called Speedway. I mean, this is very, very popular. And whereas I can appreciate Dennis Klei's comment about, you know, accessing a gas station, there's a stoplight there now, and so, you know, it's very easy to pull in to Speedway. I guess I think this is a very, very risky business venture for Wawa. And if they fail, then, you know, we're going to have this empty lot, not maintained, you know, not monitored. So those are just some of my concerns. So I want to thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss.
Tony? And again, for the record, state your name and address, please.
My name is Tony Blackburn. I live at 4136 Ray Ann Drive. I am totally against this from the get-go. I am now starting to get under control the water that I'm pulling from Mr. Klei's property. And Not to mention the noise from the Rumpke trucks and the bike nights, and I'm the second house down on the street, and I hear it all, day and night. It starts at 4:30 in the morning with the Rumpke trucks, and it doesn't end till, on bike nights, it's midnight before they get done. Speeding up and down Colerain, going into Ross, coming back out of Ross. Cops don't do nothing about it, let alone the top of the street is a bus stop. The buses have trouble getting traffic stopped there. And it's just not needed. Totally not needed.
Is the bus stop
I'm sorry.
on Rayanne?
Yeah, top of
Rain
the
at
street.
Rayanne?
The traffic does not pay any attention to it whatsoever. The cops have sat up there and witnessed it. Pulled a couple cars over for a week or two, and that's the last we saw of it. So, and as far as the crime, it'll be there. It's not too long ago that Speedway across the street from us caught on fire. You know, I don't know how many times they've caught stealing in and out of there. You know, if they rob the place, if they build the 24-hour Wawa, whatever it is, and whose backyard are they gonna run into? Mine. I'm the second house down. They're gonna run right through my yard. So that puts my family in danger. What am I supposed to do about that? I don't know. If it was you, I don't think y'all would want people running through your backyards. Let alone the lighting. The lighting from Speedway alone is astronomical. It lights up my house 24 hours a day. Or I should say not 24 hours, but at night. And the noise, we got Lowe's put up two things in their parking lot to deter something, and that goes off 24 hours a day. So we're dealing with that nonsense. We don't need any more noise. We don't need any more traffic than what's already there. And the previous lady said it, there's a traffic light there now to turn left in the Speedway. There's also an access road coming off of Struble in the Speedway. What's gonna happen with the Rumpke trucks when this gets built? Is they're gonna be pulling in there at 4 o'clock in the morning, waking everybody's families up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mandy?
Hi, I'm Mandy Blackburn. I live at 4136 Rayan Drive. I live 2 doors down from Colerain Avenue. This will be directly in my backyard, and there are negative effects that will impact the environment, the groundwater, the air quality, the noise pollution from my home and surrounding homes. This will impact the safety of the entire neighborhood and quality of life for the surrounding residents. And quality of life, I have lived in my home for 30 years, same spot. And when I purchased my home, there was no Skyline, there was no Lowe's, there was no Speedway, no Walmart, Dick's. It was country, and we have put up with a lot. And I feel like this is just enough is enough. Studies have shown that gas stations have been linked to childhood leukemia, anemia, cancer, various infections, and low birth weight. I already have 1 child with cancer. I don't need 2. My children, my grandchildren that I have guardianship over, catch the bus at the top of Colerain Avenue. This year, I had to rearrange my work schedule to drive them to school and pick them up because it was so dangerous at the top of the street because of all the traffic. And that's including the Rumpke trucks. This will increase the traffic on our side of the street. You put a gas station, it's gonna increase the traffic. It not only compromises the children's safety, any other concern is the negative element of people that are attracted to gas station. It is common for homeless people, drug users, and habitual offenders to hang out at these locations. Law enforcement warns the public that gas stations are easy for criminals to target because people frequent them, and it is easy for someone to be the victim of a crime because they are easily distracted.
Crime statistics from the FBI show that in 2021, gas stations and C-stores had a combined 37,561 violent criminal offenses. That's robberies, shootings, rapes, and murders, reported to the FBI, equating to over 5% of the country's overall violent crimes that year. Obviously, this is not what I nor the community would want next to their home. I'm sure none of you would want this in your backyard if you have small children. The gas station will impact the sale of homes, thus reducing the property values to the residents already established in the community. There are other gas stations. 1.6 miles down the street is a Speedway. 1 mile down the street is a Shell. Those are to the south. To the east, you have 2 gas stations within 2 miles. To the north, you have Ross, a few miles away. And literally a baseball throw across the street would hit the gas station that we all use. The TV commercials play on the pumps 24 hours a day. And on a very good night, we can hear Speedway's gas pumps playing, not to mention the lights. If this was in my backyard, my whole house would be lit up because I got Lowe's lighting me up on one side, I got Speedway lighting me up on the other, and I would have a Wawa in the back of me. Not to mention all the noise, as my husband spoke about, all the motorcycles, the Rumpke trucks, and the Rumpke cleaner who drives up and down the street at all hours of the night with the beeping sound going off on his sweeper. These are some of the many negative effects that will impact my home and community, and we are hopeful that we can make a difference in having a no on this rezoning, because really I feel like I've just been beaten up around in this area. Everything's going up around us, and enough is enough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Miss.
Ben?
My name's Ben Brabender, 4598 Rayanne Drive. I am at the other end of Rayanne Drive from where everybody who has spoken is. I can attest that even though I'm at the complete other end, I can still hear nature, but you can still hear Colerain Township or Colerain Avenue just fine. You can hear Rumpke just fine. One of the big issues I'm kind of seeing here with this gas station is it's not really shown. There's a watershed and a creek back behind the property that runs behind pretty much every property on the street. If there was a leak from the gas station, which is known to happen at gas stations from time to time, either a spill from a truck, spill from a pump, what would be there for to trap that other than the pond that they're going to put behind it roughly? I'm third generation in my house. My dad's uncle developed the street back in the day. So this street, it's been in my family since it was built. So we've kind of seen everything kind of happen. Rayanne Drive's kind of in a perfect storm, kind of. Everything's built up around it, but it still has that country feel to it. So, I mean, with the Speedway building up, with Rumpke's headquarters, with Rumpke itself, with the Kroger, Lowe's, everything that's kind of built up around it. Rayanne's just an unmarked kind of 2-lane country road, but traffic has increased on that probably tenfold. We've had incidents in 2019. I had to go down to court to witness a crime. There was a hit and run. Gentleman actually drove off the end of the street, small child in there, drugs, money, stuff like that. He took off into the woods. We had to go catch him. That wasn't fun. But there's been an increased traffic. We've had 18-wheelers get stuck at the end of the street. I mean, it's a dead-end street. So at the top of the street, I know you don't have any pictures of it, but there's no good signage that states that this is a dead-end road. It says no outlet, but you can't see the sign until you actually turn down the road. The Rayanne sign, I seen it when I came home this morning. It's all bent. You can't read it. There's no good clear signage that this is a dead-end road. If you go off the end of it, you will be dead. It's the perfect terminology for it. You go down a big ditch, and it's a 30-foot drop. So I'm at the end of the street. Traffic is really bad down there. So within the last couple weeks, the amount of people I've given directions to Lowe's, Vincolette Winery, Snow's Lake over on Dry Ridge, the amount of people that have came down there and asked me for directions, because come to find out, the GPS states that as a stop sign still in a lot of places. So when ODOT had put up the lights, a lot of places still haven't updated. So when it says turn right at the next light, they turn down our road, get lost, ask for directions. So the traffic really at the end, I know a lot of people at the top park their cars at the end of their driveway that, so they don't have people turning around their yard. A lot of damage has happened on the road. I know Colerain Township Police tries to kind of drive up and down it to kind of maintain it. We've had people drive down the road 50 miles an hour, slam off the brakes, go down my neighbor's driveway and run into a wall. So, I mean, and Mr. Klei said that there wouldn't be an increase of traffic. I hate to tell you, we're in the great gas station war of 2023 between everything is moving east. So you have Casey's is moving in, Wawa's moving in, you know, you hear Buc-ee's in the news. Obviously that's not what this is, but it's a destination. People are going to want to go there. People are going to want to buy sandwiches because that's what they're known for. So it's going to be kind of a destination spot. And it's just a horrible location for it unless we truly change the way Rayan Drive is, which would, I don't think anybody in this conversation would like to do that. But with the traffic, if it does pass, the traffic side of it, we're going to have to completely reimagine how the end of the street is either lighted, signed, structured. Because, I mean, you can't hardly make a turn. Then you got, you know, Amazon drivers and all that stuff all flying down the street. So it's pretty bad. My neighbor across the street who couldn't be here, 3 little kids, they play in their driveway. They've almost been hit a couple times by cars swerving at the last minute because there's a guardrail that says it is a dead end. The only thing that tells you it's a dead end is a red triangle sign at the end of the road. So if we do, so we definitely need to do some sort of traffic. Probably needs to happen anyways, but this is kind of a good time to bring this whole situation up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So next up, we have a team, Jason and Aaron.
I'll speak for
Okay.
Aaron and I.
Okay. And if you'll state your name and address, please.
I think I put the wrong address on there, but I'm Jason Matson at 4102 Rayan Drive. I am the property owner of 4102. We currently rent the house out. I would like to know, I'm a little confused on, will any of the properties be affected by this Wawa gas station? Will any property be taken away?
Explain that.
So I'm the first house on the right-hand side as you come down Rayan Drive. The Wawa gas station is going up there by Klei's. So it's basically in my backyard and in Mandy's backyard. Will they need our property to build this gas station?
Not according to the drawing we have.
Okay.
If I understand your question, if you want to come up here and show me exactly where you're at, but according to this, no. This is, you're going to be over here.
Yeah, so.
This is Rayan. Here, let me open it up for you.
Sorry.
It's hard to see it. You're here for a reason. Find out. So Rayan is here. So these are lots that front of Rayan.
Okay, so, yes. So he owns that one, right? Yep, right, that sets me right there.
You want to borrow that? Why don't you take that? Just borrow it.
Which drawing is
Somewhere
that?
back.
Which drawing is that?
What's that?
It's the top.
Just to clarify for the
three
commission,
point-
there was no indication on any of the plans that any of this development would go outside the boundaries of the 2 parcels owned by Cloud.
Right, and audience-
Folks in the audience, can we ask you respectfully, please keep sidebar conversations to outside. We'll try to, thank you so much.
Would it be easier to use the larger map? No?
I
Okay.
know where it's at now, but that does bring another question up. So.
Okay, head
Sorry.
to the mic.
So the proposed underground fuel tanks are right behind my property and right behind their property. What measurements are taken for spillage? Because I will second the motion on him. Ever since Klei built that new building, and my dad that owned the house before me, my grandfather, we get all their rainwater, every bit of it. That basement has never had a drop of water in it until Klei built that new building, and now we get all his rainwater. So where's all that rainwater gonna come from? Klei's and this new gas station. Because I'm the one that has to deal with it. And every time it rains hard, that basement floods. And I guess, according to this, Klei Mowers is staying where he's at?
No.
No? Okay. Where's he gonna go? Okay. And if they do wanna put a sewer system in, I know letters have been sent out to the neighbors of Rayan Drive. Who's gonna pay for our $11,000 bill to put a sewer system in? I don't wanna pay that if Wawa wants to put a sewer system in. If they wanna put a sewer system in, they need to pay for us as well. Where is the, well, I guess I can do this here. Maybe you guys could help me out. Where's the exit and entrance gonna be? Is it off of Old Colerain?
There's two proposed. One's off Old Colerain and one is on New Colerain.
So New Colerain, so just south of the traffic light?
Yes.
If you look at the screen,
North
sir,
of the
there's
traffic
one on the top edge there on the left side. That'd be off what I know is Colerain Road. The one on the right side of the site plan there is Colerain Avenue or US 27.
Did you cursor on there?
It'll go away when I zoom out. It'll,
There you go.
Ma'am.
right here.
Okay, so the one to the left is Old Colerain, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then, so just coming down, like I said, just south of Struble Road.
Yes.
Of that traffic light will be another one. Basically, on the property that's above my property will be another entrance or exit.
Yes, sir. That's the correct interpretation of that plan.
What, is there anything in here saying that there will not be another traffic light there?
No, there's nothing that's planned other than ODOT would not permit that, if that makes sense.
I mean, for one, the traffic light from Struble to Rayan Drive / Speedway 7-Eleven, Rumpke headquarters is close enough. Plus you have another traffic light down by Lowe's, Skyline, and Dick's. I don't think we need another one in there.
And you're correct.
Thanks. You're welcome.
And if I was hearing you correctly, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
Jared Alex, zoning administrator.
So the gas station will be 30 feet off of property lines from Rayan Drive?
No, sir. I was reading existing standards for the setbacks that are required for just a typical, what we call a single letter district, so like a B2 district, B1 district. I was reading just the standard requirements for that. If a gas station were located in B2, there's extra requirements for it to be have additional setbacks from any residential property. This is a P.D.P, so really it could be either completely open in the sense it could have no setbacks, or it could be a condition of approval could be it has to have a 200-foot setback. So it's kind of all open for discussion with the process we're talking about tonight.
Just because the reason why I say that is I don't want a gas station property 10 feet, 30 feet, 50 feet from the property line. The only thing I ask for, if this does go through or whatever, that the tree line that is there basically stays there, because it is privacy. It does help take some of the noise away. Some of these new neighborhoods that come in, they just plow every tree and everything else, and all you see is bam, houses. We would like our community, our neighborhood, to stay the way it was and the way it is now.
Definitely. If it came down to having the existing landscaping remain or the water issue, the runoff issue being addressed,
Yeah.
would you have a preference over one of those?
Well, the water issue was addressed years ago to, I can't remember who my dad addressed it to, but basically they said the zoning committee or the permits allowed him to dump all his water on our property.
Just for clarification, it's the plan that's there actually illustrates on your back wall a significant retaining wall. At your property, top of wall is 933, bottom of the wall is 926, so that's 7 foot. Wall. Retaining wall. So there won't be any, that landscape won't stay. Not if there's a 7 foot retaining wall right there.
Then they need to put something up to block that. I'm sure Mike Tim does not want to look at that when he's sitting on the back porch, and I know these people don't want to look at it either. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sherry? Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
Sherry Schneider, 4381 Rayan Drive. I've come here tonight again to express my opposition to the rezoning of the corner of Struble and Colerain Avenue. I've been a lifelong resident of Colerain Township, and I've owned my home on Rayan for over 21 years, as have the majority of the residents on the street. The main reason I chose Rayan was due to the maturity of the natural surroundings and the long-established wooded areas adjacent to the street, providing a rural, secluded setting with close proximity to 275. Upon learning of the proposed rezoning of the location of Colerain and Struble, I was sickened that my quiet, secluded street will be desecrated by the noise, lighting, traffic, health hazards, and crime that are presented by the rezoning of this land for automotive fuel purposes. The residents on Rayan are opposed to the addition of the Wawa gas station that will cause traffic and safety problems, in addition to health concerns that stem from fuel stations. This will also destroy a local wildlife habitat area. As you mentioned, the buffer will be gone, that we all know is full of wild animals that we enjoy as part of the nature of our street. According to Colerain's own economic development analysis, this proposed project does not meet the goals and objectives set forth in that document. The mobility analysis states that you are to incorporate responsible growth principles which ensure development occurs in a manner that is financially solvent for the township. This project will not only be adjacent to one, but will be located within a half mile of two existing brownfields created by previous gas stations that have left the township. Brownfields not only cause the land to be unused and non-revenue creating, they present health hazards to neighboring areas. If the proposed changes are permitted, this land could possibly result in the creation of a third brownfield that will be an issue for the township. Considering the current emphasis on alternate fuels in the United States, within the next 10 to 15 years, we could see mandatory mandates for electric cars that will make yet another fuel service area abandoned, leaving us with another unusable hazardous area in Colerain Township. Under critical considerations listed in the analysis, it states you will ensure new improvements complement the character and form of the surrounding areas. The addition of another automotive fuel service at an intersection that is already heavily trafficked area due to the high volume of cars fed by 2 very active Rumpke locations and an existing gas station, that adding of a 4th high volume traffic feeder and ozone killer in no way complements the area. It will only add further to a congested intersection that is historically dangerous and currently flooded with unhealthy air. An additional critical consideration in the mobility analysis is to facilitate better access management, including the exploration of alternative traffic patterns that improve both traffic flow and safety. Approving this project will create heavier traffic at this intersection and not meet a second critical goal as outlined in your plan. Furthermore, listed as a top priority for the northern Colerain Avenue area is access management. With the increased traffic at an already congested intersection that feeds into the retail business district, this will create more delays and discourage potential customers from coming into the area due to the traffic congestion, making it inconvenient to access businesses. In addition to the glaring contradictions to Colerain's current economic development plan are the personal reasons for not wanting this project to be approved. The drawings submitted show we will be losing a green space that currently exists, which is another consideration in your current development plan. The underground tanks holding the fuel are immediately adjacent to the Foley's backyard, where on any day you can drive past and see young children playing, which for them is a practice that will end due to the exposure of the fuel vapors that are constantly emitted from underground tanks and pose severe health issues when extended exposure is present. From current experience at the existing fuel center at Colerain and Struble, this location will draw the homeless population in the area who shelter behind the station. This causes further concern to our children in homes having strangers lurking within feet from our property. The invasive lighting and noise from a facility that will likely be patronized 24/7 will never allow us a break from the constant intrusion into our lives. Lastly, criminal activity is a nationwide problem at gas stations. In 2020, 3% of violent crimes in the United States occurred at gas stations. This is a statistic I'm not willing to welcome into our quiet little neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss.
And the next one doesn't have a first name, and I fear I'm going to butcher the last name. Is there a S. Schnellbelli? I'm sorry. Well, you can sit right back down then.
She's tough.
Steve Schnepley, 4296 Rayanne Drive.
Thank you.
Could you put up the picture of the, actual shows the trees and everything?
Like this?
Yeah, there you go. I am the 5th house on the right, and I'm very impressed with what everybody's talked about so far. Dennis, if you want to sell your property, I hope you get as much money as you can. This is America. But I hope it doesn't reduce our property values. If you want to sell it, put something there that I can still have the peaceful enjoyment that I should be able to get, that you should be able to get. I've been there. Well, I moved back because of Mom and my brother. But started there in 1956, 1957 when I was 5 years old. So I'm a little bit familiar with that. Went to Colerain High School, graduated in 1970. Colerain Avenue started with, when we moved out, 2-lane, and the only thing between Rayanne or Dry Day Road was 2 bars and Stalin's Meat Market, which was a grocery store, which we could walk to. I don't know what you're going to do. Could you tell me after everybody talks, is the township gonna do more of an investigation? Are they gonna put money into this? Are they gonna look at the traffic that already goes in the Speedway? Do we need more traffic? Do we need another gas station? Can you answer that at this point? Is there gonna be a further investigation, or do the five of you just sit and talk to each other and say, oh yeah, let's do it, let's not do it? Where's it go from here?
Is that you want me to?
Go right ahead.
There's a few options. It's sort of choose your own adventure books, if that rings a bell. Maybe that's after your time of the class of 1970. A couple things could happen. The staff's initial recommendation is to table or continue the meeting so we can work with the applicants to figure out a better plan, because I agree with you that it doesn't.
The applicant being who?
Being,
Lies?
well, they're the property owner. The applicant
Or
was
Wawa or
Jay,
whatever it is.
with the development department. But we'll get, having her depends on whatever motion's made, whatever vote happens. Nothing in the sense of like the property actually changing the zoning happens tonight regardless, if that makes sense. Either it could be tabled or continued, the meeting could be. It could be recommended to be either approved with conditions, or recommended to be denied by the Board of Trustees next month. So it's really, I guess, basically two options. It could either be tabled, or it could be moved forward to the Board of Trustees for some action next month.
What would be denied? The Wawa, not, Dennis can sell anytime he wants, correct? Dennis Klei.
Yep. You're luckily in this country, you're still free to sell your property whenever you want.
But if this is discussion of what
Yes,
can
sir.
be put in that property, if he
Yes, sir,
sells
because
it.
the property owner or the applicant or the applicant both together want to change the proposed use of the property is the reason this discussion's happening.
Okay.
So
And are you gonna investigate further on your next design of the proposal of how the tanks and everything are gonna put in? Because you talk about two entrances into that new gas station. The one that comes off New Colerain, where it changes from 55 to 35, that nobody changes to 35. And I walk up and down Colerain Avenue because I'm old and I have to walk. And I have to go into Rumpke 3 times so far because the rocks that they bring out on the road. I'm sorry, that's why you hear the sweeper, because I went into Rumpke and complained. Because they're not going to throw those rocks up on my vehicle. And then to walk up and down Colerain, I can't get past Lowe's to the other houses going to Colerain because the trees are growing over the sidewalk. I would like the township to take care of what's existing there. All right? Besides complaining to Rumpke, I have called Speedway because we get the, what was the previous report that something about waste receptacles at the car wash?
Yes, sir.
Well, Speedway has waste receptacles, but all winter long, we get the garbage and the paper and everything blowing everywhere, all right? From 1956, 57, we've been invaded enough. You want the tree line, if they put something in, well, the leaves go away in the fall and the winter, and the lights come through. If the view gets bigger, you go over to Dry Ridge where you got Snow's Lake. Next to that is another property that, I don't know what it is, they ran out for. Okay, those lights come across through when the leaves are gone. Their lights are so bright that it comes into my living room and reflects off the walls while I'm trying to watch TV. Because I don't shut my blinds at night. I leave my blinds open. It is a very dark, peaceful neighborhood. Don't ruin it.
Thank you. So I believe next on the list was here for the Blue Rock, Rick. And same with Mike Phillips. Okay. Betsy, you crossed your name off. You don't wish to speak. Okay. The next is Dale and Connie Bernard.
I'm Connie Bernard. We live at 10393 Old Colerain. Our neighbors are here with us, and we just enjoy our neighborhood. And I just wanted to say that we agree with all the ones that have spoken before us, that the noise and the traffic and the smell from Rumpke, because Rumpke talked the township into expanding. We've been here in our home for 29 years, and we've seen it, all the area grow up with all the businesses and that, and we just don't need another gas station or any more noise or lighting issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin?
Hi, my name is Benjamin Miller. I live at 4228 Rayan Drive, Cincinnati, Ohio. I just found out it was going to be a Wawa a few hours ago, so just going to rattle off some thoughts. The first, and I know this has been mentioned, it's a really busy corner already. It goes from 55 to 35, but no one ever really slows down, at least until they get to like our intersection at Rayan, but usually not until they at least get past Lowe's, if they can catch that green. And with, if I understand this right, I may have misunderstood it, but with the right in and right out traffic pattern, I know Klei's already surely has some traffic. It is a business, but it's not going to be anything like what's comparable to a gas station. So as far as accidents, I can only imagine that's going to drastically increase. I know motorcycles were mentioned, you know, that looked twice. I'm afraid that there's going to be more accidents with motorcycles coming off of that road from Ross. Another thing, Speedways, it's not too busy already. It's already open 24/7, so this Wawa's not adding an additional value from what's already right there across the street. Noise and trash, everybody's talked about that. People have talked about the tree line, but what was, I think, maybe overlooked is in the winter, all those trees are empty, so the noise, the trash, you hear it all. We hear everything, you know, Lowe's, Speedway, you name it, and we're further down the street. We're about probably dead center to the back of that warehouse building right there, the big long one. And we do okay in the spring, but come winter, it's loud. You hear everything. And like Steve said, we get all the trash already. When you think about a 24/7 business, you got to think there's going to be security lights, I'm sure, front, back, you name it. They're going to come across through all those trees, over all the fences, and right into our back windows. As far as the sewer benefit, that adds no benefit to our house. We actually had to have our entire septic system replaced 2 years ago. So that was about 50 grand. And I don't think they're going to have us pay for us to tie into the sewer. So we also have dogs. That's one of the reasons we bought the property. I wanted a big yard for our dogs to play in. And right now we have that big long tree line, and that acts as a natural barrier. My dogs are really well behaved. They stay in our yard, but if, you know, that tree line's getting wiped away and there's a bunch of noise and people all around that building all times of night, I'm gonna have to put up a fence. And to put up a fence in the backyard of my house is probably gonna be north of $15,000, because the back of my yard is about a half acre big. So that's a lot of fence. As far as, you know, water runoff, it's not just about, you know, the tanks being there, but it's also just all the oil and gas and stuff that spills on the concrete and then washes off. That's all gonna, I mean, if they don't take down the trees, probably that runoff will. You know, as far as security concerns, you know, I don't know what the gas station will or won't bring, but I can tell you that since we moved into that house, the Lowe's just a stone's throw away from our house has already put in multiple security lights with cameras that I assume are issued by the Cincinnati Police Department, because they've got blue flashing lights and everything. Additionally, with that traffic pattern of right in, right out. That means people aren't going to be able to get a left turn if they need to go that way. So then we're going to have that many more people coming down our street, turning around in our driveways. And, you know, we've only been in the house for about 2 years, maybe a little bit more, but we've already had damaged property, damaged lights, damaged drainage pipe that runs under our driveway, damaged skirt on our driveway. I don't know that we can take more people than already do come down our street and turn around. And I know I don't even have it bad as compared to the people that are at the top. The other thing is I'm an ICU nurse. I have a very stressful job, and I just spent quite a few $1,000s putting in a really nice patio in my backyard because it's very nice and peaceful and calm. And I really don't hear I hardly hear mowers, not chainsaws, none of that stuff as it is now. So it's very relaxing for me. So I'm gonna be really upset, honestly, if I just put all that work into it, because I did it myself. And my backyard then becomes useless, and it's no longer the paradise that I wanted it to be, and I bought the house for it to be. I'm sorry, I'm gonna just read over my wife's notes, see if there's anything I missed.
Smart man, smart man. Take your time.
So like I said, we bought the house 2 years ago. We bought it for the lot, the wooded yard. We really love that. And we didn't mind the mower place being back there because it seemed quiet, typical 9 to 5 kind of thing. This is not a 24/7 established. It's going to bring in, you know, loud cars and everything else. Obviously with our dogs, you know, potentially to have kids one day, we bought this as a starter house. So having that much more traffic potentially coming down our street obviously doesn't bode well for us, and we may have to consider moving if it did have that kind of impact. And I'm from the South, so I don't know how familiar everybody is with Wawa, but this is a pretty big thing. It's kind of like Sheetz or Buc-ee's or all those places. Like, it becomes the go-to place, not just for your everyday citizen, but for teenagers and everybody. You know, going back to the wooded area, we have a lot of wildlife, and I'm really concerned, you know, that we just keep taking it down and not replacing it. I know I'm trying to do my part and build up like a really nice bed and everything else in our house. So, you know, there's always that concern. Let's see. So I think I addressed all the other ones. So I know it's late, and I appreciate your time and patience in hearing our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is the last on the list. I just wanted to open it up to anyone else who did not sign in. Can I say something else or not? You can reapproach, yes. So one thing I did just wait till you're at the microphone, please.
Mandy Foley, 4136 Rayanne. The one thing I did forget to mention is the blasting from Rumpke. My house gets hit twice a day to the point that I cannot put things on shelves because they will rattle off and fall. And I know Rumpke says they're within their legal limits, and maybe they are, but it's not a chance that I want to take with gas tanks literally sitting in my backyard with Rumpke blasting it twice a day. I just wanted to bring that up also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, last call. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Okay, so commissioners, we have a recommendation before us from staff.
We need to close the meeting.
And
Motion to close.
Motion to close the public session.
yes, thank you. Can we have a motion, please?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
There you go. Thanks, guys.
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Excuse me. Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Thank you for keeping me in check. So first, I know we have a lot of questions and input before us, but I do want to take a moment to entertain staff's initial recommendation to tabling and continuing this in the future. It does go a little outside of what we are accustomed to on the zoning commission, with you having a very close discussion with applicants before they come before us to work out some of the guidance and requirements that they need to meet before plans come to us. So I just wanted to touch base with the commissioners and see where you guys are right now for accepting the staff recommendation for tabling, or if you wanted to proceed tonight.
May I ask Ms. McMullen first, can we inquire to see if the applicant is here?
Yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to be, is do we have an applicant, and I think it's appropriate for them to address the commission.
That's okay. yeah.
Yep, that's
You go. Is the applicant here? I've never met him, so I wouldn't know him.
So the question before us is, how do we move forward? And my request, I'm sorry you couldn't hear us, but my request was, do we have an applicant? Usually we have a developer, we have someone who's proposing this that's in front of us. And I guess the question's been asked, do we have an applicant? And Mr. Klei spoke, who's the owner of the property, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was Jay Adams with Unicorp National Development. Mr. Jay Adams in attendance tonight? Mr. Klei, do you know him, or?
I've spoken to him, but I do not know him.
Okay, well, seeing that we have no applicant.
I don't know. I can try and answer something if you want me to.
Well, I think we really should table it and try to get a hold of the applicant to answer some of these questions that have been brought up.
Could I ask Mr. Allig, from a procedural standpoint, what's the difference between tabling and simply denying? Either way, they could bring the proposal back, right?
Excellent question. So the difference, as I understand it, and I'll be corrected by Mr. Solomon if I'm wrong, if the commission votes to table an action tonight, it stops the process from moving regardless. If you vote to, any vote to recommend for approval with condition, or approval to deny, then by law it has to go in front of the trustees at their next meeting, or next month's meeting. We're in the 2 meeting months right now. So tabling it kind of halts everything. Lets us get with the applicant should they decide to have any discourse with us, where we could bring up some of the staff's concerns, residents' concerns, and hopefully they'd come back with a better plan at some point in the future. And then the recommendation to deny it would move it forward to the trustees next month, and they could vote to approve it, they could vote to deny it, they could vote to add conditions, remove conditions. But tabling would stop it in its tracks right now.
I guess my only concern with tabling is the confusion of, for all the folks who spoke, all the folks who have an interest in this, what happens? I mean, it could be in limbo for months, and just no one knows.
Another option would be,
If we, and my thought process would be, if you deny, then we all know what the process is, right? We know that it goes to the trustees, and the trustees make a decision, and if the applicant wants to come back, we go through this process again, we go through a public hearing again. Hopefully we have an applicant that's here that can answer some of these questions. And frankly, they have all the comments that have come in on this plan. They certainly can read that and read the record and understand what some of the concerns were, i.e. the underground tanks, and possibly propose a plan that makes some more sense than this particular plan.
that's true. That also, if we table to next month's meeting and they didn't show up at that, that would also set a similar course of action in place. But either way, either option is available to the commission to do. And I believe that the third option is no motion can be made at all, and it could just die. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, Mr. Sullivan, but in
I would recommend making some type of motion.
Miss, the microphones are on. I can try and speak up. I apologize. We're just discussing with the commission the options. So there's a few options on the table that the commission could have. One would be to table or continue the application till next month's meeting. One would be recommend to approve with the conditions, or add or subtract to from staff's recommendations. Or one would be vote to recommend to deny.
I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but I feel like I don't know if there could be a plan that could be proposed that would meet sort of, I think, what should be met in this situation. I think, you know, going from a residential zone to this intensive a use, I think is quite a leap, and I don't think there is a revised plan that would address the concerns that I've heard.
Sounds like you might want to make a motion.
I didn't know if we're done speaking, I can.
But, no, I'm sorry, we're out of public hearing. Thank you.
So I unless others have something to say, I will make a motion.
I don't have much else to add. I think it's appropriate not to let this table and be in limbo. That's my concern is, okay, you get with the applicant has to redesign, and then we're into this into November, and these folks lose, not interest, but they just lose the ability to come in because no one contacts them. There is no process to contact these people who are in the audience if that applicant comes back in November.
What the recommendation would be?
Comes in October, comes in September. There is no process because they've already gotten their notification.
It would be in the Cincinnati Enquirer.
No. The public hearing has occurred. We've closed the public hearing.
The notice has been provided, so it would just be a continuance there on notice as of.
So my point is that I think to be transparent, I'd like everyone to have some knowledge of what's happening with the process.
If it was going to be tabled, I would recommend that there's a date that's set. But
I apologize. Next month's meeting. Yeah, not indefinitely.
Okay, that's fair. That way there's a transparent date that everyone knows. Oh, okay, on this date,
That's why it's so
there's knowledge that we need to come back, or we need to review a plan. We need to contact you and look at a plan, a revised plan.
Correct.
And then at that time, would there be another public hearing?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay.
Is that right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. There has to be no public hearing, huh? Yeah. Because what?
I don't know if I agree with that because the public hearing has occurred on this today. Only required one public hearing.
There's no applicant here. I don't know how. I legal staff on that one, but
Make a motion.
how do I say this?
My partner was supposed to be here, but I can speak on behalf. That's not hold up. I can speak for the applicant.
Who are you and how?
Can the audience,
Yes. We'll run the meeting. Thank you. Who are you? What's your name?
Matt Shiflett.
And what is?
I'm the engineer for the client, so I could represent him in this case.
Who's Jay Adams?
He is our client.
That would be up to the commission if they want to accept at this point. We called for an applicant and no one spoke up at that time, so it'd be up to the commission to decide.
commissioners?
The thought was Jay was going to be here. I got a late text. He had traveling issues, so I can certainly fill in.
Any questions the commission would like answered? Or?
Nothing for me. I don't have any questions.
Would Jay be available next month? That'd be a question I have if we're talking about tabling it. But
I would imagine certainly
okay.
so. Yes.
Yep, and then we'll look into it. If anything, if you deny it, it still goes forward.
What's that?
If a motion and vote is made to deny this application, it still goes forward to the board of trustees next month. If it's tabled, it goes nowhere.
Right.
And then you could have hold the public hearing next. We could verify that, but I don't know why we wouldn't be able to have a public hearing twice if we don't have the applicant here.
Well, I think it might be at the discretion of the
You
commissioner as well to
you
open
could
it
make a
up as
motion
well.
on a public hearing next month's meeting, which would probably be the right thing to do, if that's what Jay wants to do, what you want to do, sir, and the commission wants to do.
So commissioners, the question before us is, do we want the gentleman to speak? Do we want to ask questions to the engineer first? I think that's our first decision.
I feel confident I could answer most of them.
let me say this. Every other case, we have an applicant who comes to the podium and can state their case. I think he should be given that right. May not like it, but I think that's the right thing to do. My opinion.
I agree.
I agree. So please step to the podium and again, your name and address and.
Guys, please keep it down in the audience. You'll be asked to leave if you don't. You were given your chance to speak, and they were respectful of your
swear in?
time speaking. Just please give them a chance to speak.
Did you swear in?
Yes, sir.
Please, you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, self you got? Okay, thank you.
And my name is Matt Shiflett, address 7965 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. I did notice that this was the first correspondence that we've had with the township since the pre-application meeting. Hearing the concerns of the citizens, I think that a lot of those design issues could be improved and enhanced to make everyone a little more happy with the situation. Speaking on several of the issues that came up, I know the previous site had some issues with runoff and drainage issues going on to other properties. We feel very confident once the engineering process is done that this Wawa site will have a better stormwater solution for that. All the water will be detained in that retention pond, and it will be treated for water quality. So on a site like a gas station, there's going to be more stringent water quality measures that are taken to make sure that all the runoff goes to this pond and is treated correctly. So that would most definitely be an improvement from the current existing site. I know that Wawa's done extensive research and feels confident that this location would benefit the community and would be a good viable option at this intersection. It is a popular intersection, but Wawa feels that this is a good location for one of their stores and that it will provide a lot of benefits to the community as well. Being one of them also being the sewer extension. I know there are some discussions of people having to replace their septic tanks, which can be crazy expensive, but if one goes out in the future, having that extension will definitely be of value to the community. The purpose of the retention wall along the east side is to mitigate grading off-site. So I believe that a lot of the landscaping within the residential properties, the back of their properties, can be preserved there. There is a sharp grade down on that east side, and that wall is completely on the Wawa property, potentially Wawa property, and would, in fact, I think, would keep the grading contained there. So I think there is some room to preserve some of those trees in that area. Definitely appreciate hearing the concerns and could definitely field any questions that you guys might have.
Well, the one issue that came up countless times in the testimony from the residents was the issue of traffic, and I note that in the application letter, you're doing a traffic study. Can you speak to when that might be done and when that'll be submitted to the township for review? So
it is just recently completed. My office is handling that. So that's something that we could definitely share with the city, and any improvements that are necessary that would have to be something that Wawa looks at. But we are finalizing that report now. Actually, I had a conversation today about it. So we should have the verdict on that, a very thorough study to see the impacts of what this proposal will bring. Right now, don't have the answers.
What about the relocation of the underground fuel tanks?
There is some leeway with those, the placement of those. Just looking, at the site plan now, I have a gut feeling that can be moved. I'm thinking, most likely to the north of the fuel canopy, kind of away from the eastern and western perimeter. Yep. Which I think will help alleviate some concern there. and keep some of the, the fuel tankers traffic, away from the residential community there. So there's definitely some wiggle room to move that around.
And then what about lighting?
Lighting is, Wawa has their standards. I'm sure they have different, packages that comply with this, with different scenarios. So that's something that we would need to look into further. Obviously, we'd like to do our best to keep any, light pollution down, especially being around the residential areas. So I'm sure there are some alternatives that we can look at. Just the phase that we're at right now in design have not gotten that far, but something that we can definitely keep in mind as we move forward.
Also, talking about the fuel tanks, underground fuel tanks, is there monitors that are on those?
I can't answer that for sure. That would be a Wawa spec that I'd have to ask them about. That I just honestly don't have that answer for you right now.
There was the question about trash concerns on site for the trash collection, so the trash cans. What can you do in your plan to ensure that, say the wind blows, you're not blowing all of the trash out of the cans?
Yeah, well, the dumpster enclosures, we'll work with an architect to get that designed, to make sure that, Wawa as a business doesn't want trash blowing around either. So we'll work to get that. As you can see, it's a more of a building with these big doors that, really your average person shouldn't be able to, your average customer shouldn't be able to access those, and that's where the bulk of the trash is going to be. And you can see by that rendering there, the big doors, they do a pretty good job of retaining all of that. It's almost like its own little building there. And then obviously they're going to have, maintenance, team members to clean up all the other trash receptacles on a shifted basis throughout the day.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So is there anyone that wishes to entertain a motion or?
I would like to make a motion to deny the major modification to case ZA 2005-006 and zoning map amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion to deny and a second, Mr. Alec.
All right. I'll start. Mr. Bachman?
No.
Mr.
Excuse
Wilson?
me, no.
Pardon me?
No.
This is a motion to deny.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall? Yes. Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
So, Mr. Allen, can you explain to the folks what next step is and kind of where things go from here?
Absolutely. The next step, as the process is laid out, is that the applicant, if they wish to, could present before the Board of Trustees at their July 11th meeting. They have the right to do so, or they could withdraw. They could propose a modified plan. But the next step in the process, as it stands right now, would be a hearing on July 11th, which everyone within 200 feet of these properties will receive the same mailed notice you received tonight. We'll do the same public notice and the inquiry as we did for this meeting. That'll be required for the July 11th Board of Trustees meeting here. I believe 6 p.m. is when they say that starts, just to let you know.
And at that meeting, just like I think Mr. Alec said earlier, they can go ahead and accept the recommendation. They can change the recommendation. The Board of Trustees can do anything. So nothing here is binding, just to make sure you're all aware of that.
That would take us to informal concept review.
Yep, no informal concept review this month. So that brings us to old business.
Should we give people a minute to leave, or want to leave, or stay?
If anybody was leaving after that case, now's your chance. We still have more to go.
Hello, fellow white man people, I don't know you.
Is it a motion to amend our violation section?
If everyone could please take it outside so we can move on with the meeting. We're not done yet.
The next meeting would be the trustee meeting, July 11th. That would talk about this case.
Motion?
Right.
To remove the word minor misdemeanor from our violation section. Culpability portion of the ORC. Yeah.
I didn't see you hide in there, Scott.
I'll email it to you. Just, it'll all be in there, just so you know. Sorry, I'll just. Property maintenance, yep, but not.
We're almost there.
Yep. I apologize, sorry. This is just requesting motion for it. Yep, so you're good if you need to go, if you have those.
All right, so
Apologize, sorry. Thank you,
old
Commissioner.
business.
All right, old business. Case ZA, oh, pardon me. You want to introduce it, Mr. McMullen? You want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You're good.
I apologize for, exactly 1 year ago, almost exactly 1 year ago, this month's meeting last year, KCA 2022-06, Rumpke's Citizens Convenience Center was before the Zoning Commission. This was the presentation from that. It followed, Mr. Huber had a long night that night too. 2 Stone Creek amendments, and then the Rumpke was the final business action. Here's the case information packet. The applicant representing the property owners requested a minor amendment. Scott Huber with Abercrombie, property owners Rumpke Sanitary Landfill. Over all this, where it's at in the township. I think we all know where that's at. Back then, this was with the property layout. Rumpke had not yet purchased any portion here from ODOT. Just give you a heads up, this was a rough, that's my expert drawing back then, of rough area we were talking about, looking at. Just some property maps, topo map. This was the plan presented that night. We'll come back to this in a second, but just this was the where the zoning resolution says, yeah, we have some standards for the solid waste district. Basically, there's a very last sentence in it says, between the zoning resolution, consent decree, or any other documents, the least restrictive shall rule. In this case, it was the consent decree that was done in, I believe, it was 2016. And long story short, the plan was presented, it was approved through all this stuff. Staff findings then were the current use permitted in the EF. Staff's opinion that the granting request minor amendment would not be contrary to the public interest. And then there was recommended conditions, which they've already met and the proposal did meet. The recommended staff condition was that they purchase the indicated portions of parcels as existed back then. Those were from ODOT. That -90 at the end is one indication, sort of that. And that completed, for the most part, that quick presentation. The problem, and what brings us here, I'll do a real quick run over it and then let Mr. Huber address some specifics if there's any specific questions of it. The old proposal that we saw showed this graphical representation of this building and then has listed in here, feel good? Has listed in here up to 18,950 square feet. And then this red line here has been added to calculate what that actual graphical representation was. And that was roughly, this is just a very rough measurement, but the graphical representation was actually about 39,000 square feet, not 18. And then, just trying to sort of zoom in on that aspect for you, where those measurements are. If you take 452 times 88, you get roughly 39,776 square feet. So that was the plan that was presented. The graphical representation was correct. The written square footage was not correct. So about a month and a half ago, our office received an application to do a 29,000 square foot building here, and I asked them how they got that number, and that started this whole discussion of the faux pas that happened on the original plan. So now, what it really comes down to is, in my opinion, you know, there's the graphical representation is one aspect of a plan. There's the written information on that plan may or may not hold more weight on some people's opinions. I believe generally it's a general rule is the right word. And Scott, you'll correct me instantly. I think if I'm wrong, but they say with a lot of court cases, what was written is usually what's gone by, not what was graphically represented. But at the same time, part of the visualization of approving it, sometimes the numbers don't mean much. Sometimes seeing the picture, you know, is worth 1,000 words. It means more. So just trying to present both sides to that. So if you take the updated proposal, it is actually less than, the footprint of it is less than what was proposed to the commission at this time last year. So I'm kind of using a lot of words trying to say what was presented last year, it was a bigger picture, bigger footprint. The numbers were incorrect. What's being presented now, it's a smaller footprint than what was presented with correct numbers. That just encapsulates how we got here to this moment right now. There's if you take the 452 times 88, you get approximately 39,776. If you take the new plan, it's showing a 300-foot wide building by 88 feet, you get approximately 26,400. So kind of like about three numbers. About a 40,000 square foot building was proposed with an 18,000 square foot number written on that plan. The new plan's coming back. It's proposed with these measurements with the correct square footage presented on it. And then that concludes all I have to say about it at this moment. I just want to paint a picture of how we got here, and then Mr. Hubert.
Was it reduced for a reason, or was it just a clerical error? I mean, was that something that ODOT required as part of their approval?
Good evening. My name's Scott Huber, Site Civil Engineer with Abercrombie & Associates. Yeah, the reason we're here tonight is there was just a labeling error on the plan a year ago. It really, I'm not going to say it doesn't mean anything, but there's really nothing that changed. The graphic representations were correct. The setbacks were correct. The orientation on the property is correct. It's just that 18,950 square feet. It's just an error. It's a wrong number.
Yeah, it was just an error on the plans. There was no reason for the modification.
No. And what Mr. Eilig is alluding to is that we're currently in for a zoning certificate, and we submitted a smaller building. It really is a smaller building when you look at it dimensionally, but it happens to say 26,000 square feet, and he's interpreting that to be larger than what was approved. So what I'm asking for tonight is if the commission could direct staff to continue with the zoning certificate review process with the realization that this truly is a smaller building than what got approved last year. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huber.
Any additional questions?
So the building that you're proposing is 28,113 square feet, correct? The one that you're wanting to build?
Hang on, I don't know that I have the square footage of the new building.
On the site plan you submitted, that's
the site plan. That's what it says on the site plan.
Okay, 28,113 square feet. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is 300 foot by.
It's 302 feet by 109 feet 4 inches.
Okay.
Overall, and there's some jogs and stuff in there like that. But again, I want to stress that the building that's in for the zoning certificate is smaller in size. When we went through all this process, we just talked number of bays internally. So when we presented it last year, it was an 18-bay building, and this building that's in for a zoning certificate is a 12-bay building. And that's how we just communicated that internally. We didn't talk square footage or dimensions or anything like that. It was the bay count.
Gotcha.
So what we're wanting to get approved is a 12-bay building, and what was approved last year was an 18-bay building. So the building is smaller.
Any additional questions? Okay, hearing none. I'm assuming you want a motion, Mr. Allig.
Staff's request before the commission tonight would be if they would be okay with me accepting, one, if you're okay with the explanation of how this happened, right? There's graphically represented one size building with the wrong number on it. That was approved. This error has been discovered, it's been addressed, and we're coming to the zoning commissions to say, you know, will you allow me to accept this plan that's before us? Or does,
And we do that via a motion before us.
yep.
Okay.
Make a motion, we approve the Rumpke Citizens Convenience area of a building approximately 28,000 square feet. As submitted today.
I'll second. So we have a motion and a second. I'm coming at you.
We're waiting on you.
I write too many notes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's commission, Scott. Sorry. Bad joke. Thank you, Scott. And thank you, Commissioner. I sometimes say the word accidentally as well, so.
Okay, so under new business, we have none. Administration, you are asking for another motion to initiate?
Yes, tied with that is an announcement to make, but yes, a motion to initiate a text amendment to our violation section, which is Article 5 of the Colerain Township zoning resolution.
Okay, I'll make a motion as such.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. We are at announcements.
All right. One happy announcement that, oh, my goodness, it's been a long time. I'm going to get through all this. Oh, jeez. Got to keep the suspense going, right? With us tonight are Mr. Justin Becker and Mr. David Peters. Justin to my right, Mr. David Peters back here. If you guys want to get up and introduce yourselves, there are two new hires for our development officer / planner position. Did you want to say a quick hi or something like that? Tell them about yourself. Go up. Everyone else. Thank you. I'm teasing.
Can?
Sure.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you. Hi, nice to meet you.
Welcome, guys.
Welcome aboard.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Welcome aboard.
As they said, they're both Miami graduates, so don't hold that against them. I'm hoping that all the excuses I made about things being late, right on the knife's edge, a razor's edge of time, that should now stop. If it doesn't, you all get to beat me. So they've shown they did excellent in their interviews. They've done excellent in their first couple of weeks here so far. So very excited to have them, and I think some very good things will be coming down the pipeline with their help here.
Good.
So thank you for that. And no real update as far as any. There hasn't been any changes in the zoning amendment rewrite. No meetings, nothing new proposed, but I'll keep you updated as necessary. And then that covers announcements.
Awesome. So at this point, do we have, well, we will have a July meeting. Because we do expect at minimum, the text amendment this time. How's that sound?
Definitely.
All right. But no other applications that you know of at this point?
The only outstanding one was Mr. Huber's, if a follow-on, so no, just that.
All right, so that brings us to number 12, our favorites, adjournment. So thanks for everyone in attendance and all the great feedback we received today. So all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.